Many people came to this mysterious and terrifying place not to have fun, but to have a sad moment in their lives, because in this place they were trying to find a job. Despite the busyness of the place, one recruiting place was empty for some reason, and no one lined up for this employer. The blonde man was indignant that since there was no one in this place, then it would be better if the neighboring booths were expanded so that people wouldn't crowd in. He felt that this company was being too irresponsible and was just taking up space, and after all, work was already hard to find. This caused the guy behind him to pay attention to this empty space. As it turned out, it wasn't empty, and there was a girl sitting there. He tried to read the job title, but that only added more questions to his mind. The guy couldn't understand why there was no line for this company. As he looked at the lines at the booths with jobs in the neighborhood, he only disappointedly remarked that his turn at the other places wouldn't come up until tomorrow at the earliest. Many were willing to fight for the job, lowering their value to be a more attractive option for the employer. Some were willing to work 10 hours a day with 1 day off a week. Some were even asking to be hired since they wouldn't have to pay much. Someone was even willing to pay a fee for the internship period. The guy sighed disappointedly, imagining how hard it would be for him to compete with people like that. In the end, he decided to try his luck where none of the applicants even approached. At the table, a girl sat bored and looked at her phone. As soon as the guy approached the employer's desk, he passed as if through some invisible barrier. The girl immediately hid her phone and smiled at the sight of the guy. It could now be seen that the employer had his own uniqueness. The entire employer's cubicle was as if separated from the rest of the room by some kind of barrier. No one even noticed that the guy had approached the employer and that there was an employer at all. The girl asked the guy to tell briefly about himself. The guy said with a smile that his name was Yan Wenhan. He said that he had finished his studies in the construction department at the Polytechnic with a grade point average of 3 whole and 56 hundredths. In school, he received a scholarship. He considered his strengths to be kindness and sociability. The girl immediately asked the guy if he had loyalty and hard work. Yan Wenhan informs with a strained smile that he has such qualities. Yan thought that the girl thought his resume was insufficient. He was even upset, although he already knew that his chances of finding a good job were initially low. Besides, other companies were also doing a thorough screening process. Others had too many candidates, so he was unlikely to find a job there too. He sighed heavily. The guy approached the employer just to try his luck, because suddenly he would be hired, and so the cultural company was not even related to his work. In the end, he decided to give up in search of a good job. However, contrary to his thoughts, the girl took another look at his resume and smilingly announced that he was hired. Yan Wenhan obviously didn't expect this turn of events. Maybe he came to the job search to find an excuse why he didn't have a job and was suddenly hired. The girl informed him that the talent the guy had was exactly the talent they had been looking for a long time. The guy was surprised as he had not noticed any talent behind him. He couldn't believe it, as 99 out of 100 candidates fit the exact same resume. The guy was even about to look for video cameras as he thought he was on some TV show. The girl winked at the guy and once again remarked with a smile that he had an amazing talent. She offered the guy a monthly salary of 20,000 yuan, as well as insurance and 20 days of annual paid vacation. The company also offered career advancement opportunities, bonuses and generous bonuses at the end of the year. All that went through the guy's mind after that speech was the sum of 20,000 yuan a month. Yan Wenhan was too worried when he heard what kind of amazing conditions the company was offering. In the current times, houses didn't sell well, and civil engineering graduates couldn't even find a job carrying bricks on the construction site. And here, all of a sudden, he was being offered the most luxurious conditions in the market. Seeing the pensive and seemingly upset guy, the girl could not understand why the guy did not immediately agree. She even thought that she had offered too small a salary. The girl had done research before leaving the valley, so she assumed that such working conditions would satisfy 99% of the graduates. She was faced with the dilemma of whether to raise the salary higher or leave it at the same level, as raising the salary would look too suspicious. Yan Wenhan didn't even look at the girl. He was pondering whether the girl was a fraud who was going to sell his kidneys and other organs. The guy just couldn't believe that he was so lucky in life. After all, he had never even won anything in the lottery. He was about to get up and refuse as the girl quickly noticed it. It surprised her that the guy was going to run away after she was interested in him. She looked into the guy's eyes and she extremely disliked the expression in the guy's eyes. She thought there was something wrong with this case. Finally, making up his mind, the guy stood up and apologized and said that he remembered he still had things to do. However, as soon as he turned his back, he felt an incredibly frightening aura. Turning around, he saw that the girl had a strange glow coming from her left eye. The girl told the guy to return and sit back down. A moment later, Yan Wenhan was once again sitting on the chair in front of the girl. Looking at his feet, he was startled as he found that his legs were not moving. The girl once again greeted the guy with a smile and asked for a moment to convince the guy to accept this job offer. Yan Wenhan was now sure that this was some kind of fraud. The girl started to take off her shoes. She said that the conditions might have seemed unrealistic, but assured that the company's details could be easily checked. After that, she got on the table and told me that you can find information about the company on Chichacha. Briefly, Chichacha is a sort of database of Chinese companies, and it contains records of over 100 million companies. She also said that the company has the support of the government. The girl with a smile assured the guy that the honesty of their enterprise is guaranteed and asked him not to worry about it. After reading a little bit of information about the company, Yan Wenhan thought that everything looked like a legitimate company with no offenses. The company had a large registered capital and 15 years of history. However, it still seemed strange to him because he was in civil engineering and it didn't fit his specialization at all, so he didn't understand why he was chosen. As if sensing the guy's doubts, the girl explains to him that she understands his doubts about the job. She informs him that the company is promoting a tourist project, and therefore they need someone to look after the construction of a new recreation facility. They don't have the right person, and they can't bring in someone from outside, so they set about finding an employee. After a bit of thinking, the guy doesn't realize at all that he was fooled and thinks that the girl's words make sense. The girl proceeds to convince the guy by telling him that she has scrutinized his resume. She even thinks a guy's resume is differentiated from the rest by the fact that everything is written honestly and down to earth, without exaggeration. The company was not short of money, and the company's philosophy is not to exploit workers. Work is supposed to be fun after all. The girl even reports that even the janitors in their company earn 20,000 yuan a month. After the obvious noodling in the form of information that is verified pretty quickly, the guy decides to believe that a rich company can throw money around by taking care of employees in this way. The girl adds that the company is a bit superstitious and hires the guy because his phone number ends with 888. The company considers this a very auspicious sign. Yan Wenhan is obviously willing to believe any nonsense to get a job and doesn't wonder how such a company hasn't gone bankrupt yet. He decides to believe that mysticism is the pinnacle of science and that everyone believes in luck. So he thought he was lucky for the first time in his life. After these first-class arguments that somehow miraculously convince the guy, he takes the job. Yan Wenhan is a little surprised at how quickly the boss signs his contract. However, the girl tries to justify that having met talent, one should not hesitate but act. After signing the contract, the girl welcomes the new employee to the unbreakable cultural creativity company. Yan Wenhan promises to try her best in her new company. However, the girl remarked with a smile that it will be enough if the guy doesn't run away. This moment puzzled the guy. The girl goes on to praise the guy that he is incredibly talented, so he should be able to handle it. She asks the new employee to pack his things and start work from the next Monday. The company had already booked a train ticket for the employee, and someone from the company was to meet him at the station. Yan Wenhan continued to be surprised by such rapidly developing events. The guy tensed up again as everything was too suspicious, especially the fact that the company had prepared in advance. The girl again tries to dispel the fears of the new employee. She informs him that while drawing up the contract, they used his data to buy a train ticket. She also says that if the guy is interested in something, all the details are already on his cell phone. After that, Yan Wenhan asked if he could go. This time, the girl no longer objected to him leaving. Yan Wenhan left the girl with the contract in hand. Yan Wenhan's starting date according to the contract was February 28th, 2024 year. The term of the contract, 2 years. However, as soon as the guy left, the girl's left eye once again shone with a red light. Yan Wenhan did not notice the main catch of his contract. The contract term instantly changed under the influence of the girl's powers, and the real contract term appeared. The contract was indefinite, not 2 years as the guy thought. The next day, Yan Wenhan went to the East Station of City C. He told his mum and dad on the phone that he had found a job and that it paid 5,000 a month, and also told his parents that he was currently on his way to work. The son decided not to tell his parents all the details because the parents would go straight to the police. The mum was so relieved that the son had finally found a job. She encouraged him and asked him to do his best, as it was very difficult to find a job nowadays. The son asked that mum not to worry about him. He hurried to catch the train and said goodbye to his mum. Yan Wenhan was once again surprised when the information board displayed his train going to the indestructible valley. The train's departure was at 11:11 p.m. from platform 11. The guy was puzzled as this train even had its own station. He even felt as if he was in some kind of movie. Today he had just forgotten to grab his glasses and the zipper-like scar on his forehead. After getting on the train, Yan Wenhan decided to take a nap. He was already looking forward to his life as a corporate slave with a certain amount of sarcasm. While the guy was sleeping, the train was traveling at full speed to its destination. One night later, the train arrived at the Unbreakable station. The train informed the passengers to get ready to leave the carriage. Leaving the train carriage and stepping into the station, Yan Wenhan noticed how lively the area was and how rich the neighborhood was. The guy wasn't too happy to find this out, as the housing prices were surely high in this neighborhood, and he even forgot to ask if the company provided a dormitory. However, something confused him, and that was how the people were dressed. He even assumed that there was a cosplay festival going on nearby. Yan Wenhan walked up to the signboard with the name of the train station and looked around. He had been told when he got a job that someone from the company would meet him at the station. At the same moment, a girl was holding a picture of Yan Wenhan and looking around at the arriving passengers. Among the crowd of people, she easily managed to find Yan Wenhan, who stood out from the other people. Hearing the sound of approaching footsteps towards him, the guy looked up. However, in the same second, the girl jumped onto his neck and hugged him. She was glad that her senior brother had finally arrived. Yan Wenhan's face turned red at such an act by the girl. He reckoned that the representative of the cultural company was indeed blazing with enthusiasm. Despite this, Yan Wenhan believes that one should not underestimate the willpower of a college student who has been tempered for 4 years. The guy informs the girl that she is overly enthusiastic about these events. He's all flushed from such an embrace. Guy tries to keep his cool, remember everything he's been taught, and stay calm. To calm down, Yan Wenhan even began to list the chemical elements, remembering all the formulas he knew and so on, all to distract himself from his thoughts. Finally, letting go of the guy's neck, the girl reports that she was happy to see the guy. She also noted that the guy seemed to be having trouble breathing. In fact, she was so happy that her master was able to fool someone and that they had found the person who would be their babysitter. Being the eldest, Yan Wenhan immediately introduced himself to the girl by saying his name and also asked the girl what her name was. The girl informed that her name is Yu Xin. She can also be called Xin Xin or Little Fish. Yu Xin smiles and informs that cats like fish. Are human ears fake or something? Hearing all this, Yan Wenhan decides to call the girl a little fish. He was completely serious as this was his job and he hoped he would hit it off with the girl. Shaking the guy's hand, Yu Xin is so happy and she is sure that they will be able to work together. The girl calls the guy her senior brother and informs him that the master asked her to escort the guy to the company. Yan Wenhan definitely wanted to find a job, and it seems that's why he subconsciously plays the fool. He is surprised that the company is treated like in the anime, senior brother, master. However, he decided that this was to be expected from a company with such a name. Yan Wenhan had heard that employees in some establishments even dressed like in anime. He thought the cosplayer girls were adorable, and no one would find it strange that they dressed like that. As they walked, Yan noticed the ears on the girl's head and how well made they were. He wondered how those ears stayed on her head, since it seems like the cat ears grow right out of the girl's head. While the guy was immersed in his thoughts, Yu Xin led him to the golden scooter. Yan Wenhan started to look at the golden scooter. He couldn't stop wondering, because the golden part of the scooter didn't look like paint, and the golden scooter looked very realistic. as if it was really made of gold. He had seen not a few scooters before, but such a model was unfamiliar to him, so he assumed it was handmade. Yu Xin says that she never learned how to drive a car, so she didn't have a driver's license, and since the other older siblings were busy, the guy would have to ride with the girl on this small electric scooter. Yan Wenhan reassures the girl as he doesn't mind such a trip at all, and that this way he can see the city on the way. He even naively thinks that he has such a kind co-worker. Looking at the girl, the guy is filled with confidence that the company has a great atmosphere. He naively thought that for once in his life he was lucky, and that he had a very good job. Yu Xin got on the electric scooter and then called Yan Wenhan to sit behind her. After the guy got on the golden electric scooter, they rode to the company. Yan Wenhan noticed that it was quite an unusual experience for him to ride a scooter behind a girl's back. He didn't know what he should grab onto to keep from falling off the scooter. It seemed to him that taking the girl by the waist might not be quite right. Besides, he probably didn't want any lawsuits. However, as if sensing his apprehension, Yu Xin turned to him and asked the guy why he wasn't holding on to her to avoid falling off the scooter. She subtly informed him that if he didn't hold on to her, he might fall on the way to the mountains because they were about to take off. Still not understanding the meaning of the words said, the guy cheerfully informed her that he had good balance and would not fall. Suddenly he realized that the girl had said they were going to take off, and at the same moment the scooter started to take off. The scooter lifted off the ground and flew into the mountains at breakneck speed, as if they were on some kind of airplane. Yan Wenhan immediately grabbed Yu Xin's shoulders, his head tilted back, and he saw what looked like some stars from behind the scooter. He couldn't understand what they were. His first thought was that they were some particles of light. Looking down, he was even more scared because they started to deviate more and more from the original route. The guy remembered that the girl had mentioned the mountains, which meant that maybe she wanted to take him somewhere in the middle of nowhere to have his organs removed. Yan Wenhan was about to cry because he thought that the villains from northern Myanmar had gotten to this place, which meant that he might lose his most precious possession at the end of his trip. Yu Xin was humming happily and didn't seem to be paying attention at all. The guy realized that he had to act. He was going to jump off this scooter and escape. Starting his report from 3 as they started to land, he jumped off when the countdown reached 1. While he was in the jump, he was even glad that his escape had gone well. However, a moment later, something confused him. As it turned out, Yu Xin had caught the fugitive and he was in her arms. Yu Xin admits that the master told her that Yan Wenhan might try to escape, and so she advised her not to let the duck fly away. Only now has the guy realized what an idiot he is, and that he was fooled and now his end has come. Yu Xin informs him that in this place there is no village nearby, no store with telephone, no bus stop, no railroad. Even a hitchhiker was impossible to catch. Yu Xin advised the senior brother to give up, as there was no way for him to escape. The guy cried. He asked to be kept alive and allowed his kidneys to be taken. Yu Xin was puzzled when the guy mentioned giving permission to take his kidneys. Yan Wenhan asks for mercy, as he needs to take care of his parents and he hasn't had time to have children of his own yet. So he begs and tearfully asks for the girl to let him go. The girl thinks that the senior brother seems to have misunderstood something. She asks that he stop thinking about leaving. Yu Xin informed that the senior brother signed a contract, and according to the contract, he belongs to the master alive. Dead, he also belongs to the master. If the senior brother decides to break the contract, he will face a fate worse than death. Yan Wenhan notes that he is not running away already, so he asks the girl to let him go. The girl immediately lets the guy go, and he falls painfully to the ground. Yu Xin is happy about this turn of events and asks that senior brother keep his word. Yan Wenhan is not a stupid guy. He was glad that the girl fell for his words. However, if he didn't run away now, he might not get this opportunity again. He decided to send the treaty to hell. After all, what could these people do when he ran away? Since he was a modern student, he figured he could handle any murky scheme. He called out to the girl, calling her a little fish. After that, the guy pointed to the sky, as if he saw a flying pig there. As she looked up into the sky, the girl was surprised, for the spirit of the pig had not yet learned to fly. While she was looking at the sky and didn't understand where the flying pig was, the guy ran away from her. Yan Wenhan believed that strength could be overcome, poverty could be gotten out of, but he wanted his kidneys to stay with him. Not finding any pigs in the sky, the girl turned around to inform her senior brother. At that moment, she saw Yan Wenhan running away from her. The girl realized that all this time she had been distracted by something that didn't exist. Yu Xin is outraged by this action of the guy since her senior brother is bad and lied to her. He is surprised by the fact that the girl is involved in fraud but still remained so innocent. Running away, he advises the girl, if she gets the chance, to run away too. Yan Wenhan assumed that since the girl had a scooter, she could catch up with him. He even somehow thought that the girl wouldn't be able to catch him in the field since the scooter wouldn't pass through there, although he must have forgotten that he had flown the scooter recently. At this point, the girl caught up to the guy and kicked him in the back, as she wanted to punish him for lying to her. The guy let out a painful groan as if his kidneys had been hit by this blow. Suddenly, a system window appeared in front of him. The system showed a notification that a physical impact had been recorded. After that, the system activated. Yan Wenhan was surprised that something strange appeared in front of him. He reached for the system, and the system showed that he had met a girl, Yu Xin, today. The girl's age was 16 years old. Affiliation, Spirit Cat Clan. Special skill, Enchantment, Level 5. Stamina, Level 5. Strength, Level 3. Agility, Level 5. Spirit Power, Level 5. Familiarity score, 0. Evaluation, outspoken and quick to act. The guy noticed that the girl was rather fast and also reckless. As the guy emitted his spirit, the girl complained that she may have kicked him too hard. Yu Xin notes with a smile that she wasn't aiming where to kick, so she may have hit the guy's head. After a while, the house of the so-called company Yan Wenhan had signed a contract with. He was lying on the bed, and sitting next to him on the chair was the same legendary conwoman who had fooled him. The guy finally started to regain consciousness and opened his left eye. Suddenly, he jumped up abruptly and sat down on the bed. He held his head with his right hand. Just after waking up, he heard someone talking to him with a sweet voice. He was surprised, for in front of him was the very girl who had forced him into this contract. Looking at the girl, he recognized her name as Yu Wanning. According to the system, she was the master of Wujin Valley. The system's evaluation of the girl, a heartless demon capable of doing anything except paying her wages on time. All of the girl's other details were not known to the system. Yan Wenhan only resented the fact that even the wages would not be paid, as he immediately covered his own mouth with his hands. Looks like Yu Wanning is also delaying the payment of wages. The guy mentally complained to his mom that not only had he fallen for the scammers, but he had also fallen into another world. Nothing good was waiting for him in this world. Yu Wanning resents why the guy in the job placement program wasn't told about the duties of the workers. The girl decides that it doesn't matter, since colleges nowadays work terribly. The guy is taken aback by the girl's statement. Yu Wanning decides to skip the small talk and get straight to the point. She informs that the employee can call them all cultivators who live in seclusion. The Cultivators Association monitors all cultivators, so they are not allowed to use magic in the human world. In the cultivator world, there is a special public relations department. If there are accidents, the department deals with scientific explanations for supernatural occurrences. That was why most ordinary people had never heard of cultivators. This information didn't really appeal to the guy anyway. Yu Wanning also informs him that their company is legit and they don't need fraudulent schemes or organ trafficking. Therefore, she assures the guy that his life and property are completely safe. She explains that their company is unique, but all the benefits and bonuses are quite real. Yan Wenhan doesn't really trust the girl and the company anymore. Yu Wanning reminds him that the guy can look up all the public information about the company on Chichacha. The girl informs him that the guy will be working as senior brother. To make it clear, she notes that senior brother is some sort of CEO. Yu Wanning notes that the guy didn't end up in this place by chance, as she was careful in choosing the candidate. She notes that the guy isn't an ordinary person either, and he has unawakened abilities. It's probably because he was able to spot her and get through the barrier of getting a job. After that, she exhaled smoke directly into his face and asked if he had any questions. Waving the smoke away and coughing, the guy agrees to accept that he has awakened some abilities and that there are cultivators in the world. Despite all this, he couldn't fully understand everything. Yu Wanning notices that the guy is brave and smart despite all the pressure they put on him. Therefore, she doesn't understand what else he hasn't been able to understand. In his thoughts, Yan Wenhan confesses that he doesn't really understand anything. Why he became a senior brother and about some abilities. Everything seemed fine, but he continued to feel like a corporate slave. He was shaking when he decided to ask his question, which other than during the job interview, the girl had never mentioned in any other way. Yan Wenhan wondered the most important question for him, whether the girl would delay his salary. Naive fool, of course the master will lie, and then will not pay as soon as it is time to pay. Yan Wenhan, the boy who survives. Yan Wenhan repeatedly wondered if the girl would delay the payment of his salary. Yu Wanning decides to show surprise when she hears the question asked to her. She remarks that they are a legitimate company and such companies would never delay wages. She even thinks it's rude to ask such questions and ask the guy not to do that anymore. Yan Wenhan didn't really believe in the girl's words because if what he saw in front of him about the girl was a manifestation of his ability, then the ability can hardly be wrong. Besides, the guy noticed that the girl looked somehow suspicious after the question he asked her. Yu Wanning reminds the guy to come early tomorrow as they wanted to throw a small welcome party for him before starting work. She was going to introduce Yan Wenhan to a few of her personal students since they would be co-workers in the future. After hitting him on the head with a pipe, the girl remarks that a guy like senior brother should set a good example for everyone. Yu Wanning informs that there are clothes prepared for the guy in the dormitory from which he must choose what to wear. After that, she stated that he could go and she was going to lie down to rest. Yan Wenhan thought that the employer's preparations showed thorough, so he wanted to see if everything would remain like this on payday. After that, the guy went to the dormitory. The next day, he changed his clothes and sat down to reflect on his current situation. He was glad that despite the difficult situation in the labor market, he had managed to officially get a job. He decided that from now on he would work hard to surpass his colleagues. However, he was curious about one thing. After all, he had just joined the company, so how could he become a senior brother right away? His first assumption was that he was a senior brother because he was the oldest in age. Not being able to think of anything better, the guy decided to check everything with the system. He also wanted to make sure he named everyone correctly, since making a good first impression is very important. Using the systems, he looked at the information on the two girls he knew. A cosplay enthusiast with cat ears, Yu Xin. A lover of drinking and smoking and wearing glasses, Boss Yu Wannings. The guy obviously knows how to find something positive, even in the most dire situation. He noticed that his current situation was as if he was like a chosen hero from the short stories. Guy was glad that he had gotten a system that only he had, because now his marvelous journey was just beginning. Yan Wenhan felt like Goku from Dragon Ball and thought that he had to save the world. Now he could raise levels and kill monsters, and he could also gain financial freedom. He was so happy that he couldn't hide his smile. However, at this moment, Yu Wanning came up to him and wondered why the guy was smiling so stupidly. The girl crouched down on the floor and immediately demanded that the guy bring her a lighter and also brought her a bottle from the cupboard. Yan Wenhan couldn't understand when the girl came, for he didn't see her enter the house through the door. The guy went to the closet to get the bottle. He couldn't understand why the girl was acting like this. Yan Wenhan brought the bottle out of the cupboard and the girl opened the bottle cap with one swipe. Yu Wanning immediately started from the bottle. The guy wondered why his boss was drinking in the morning and how healthy it was. Suddenly, Yu Wanning reported that someone was walking towards them. The guy turned around to see who was coming, and at that moment, many snakes rushed towards him. Yan Wenhan was incredibly frightened when so many snakes appeared in front of him. Along with the snakes came a girl, Anjuanzi, the second senior sister of the Wujin Valley. Anjuanzi made a seat for herself and crouched down on the floor, looking at the newly arrived guy. Yan Wenhan noted that another girl who liked cosplay appeared in front of him. He wondered where the festival was held in this place. Another girl appeared next. It was Yang Yuyi, the fourth junior sister of Wujian Valley. She also found a suitable place and sat down on the floor. The guy decided to use his new ability and look up information about girls. Anjuanzi was an ancient spirit Gu. Her age was 23 years old. Stamina, level 3. Strength, level 3. Agility, level 5. Spirit power, level 5. Familiarity score, 0. Her special skill was goo magic, and her attribute was poison. Determined to rebuild her family, Yang Yuyi was the demon empress. Her age was 21 years old, her special skill was energy wall, and her attribute was fury. Her characteristics were unknown. Evaluation, holds a deep grudge after being betrayed and killed in her past life. Yan Wenhan was surprised to see the ancient spirit Gu and the demon empress appear in front of him. Yu Wanning told the guy to ignore the girls who had arrived, because there were many cheerful and friendly juniors in the valley. She couldn't understand why the others hadn't arrived. At the same moment, another guy arrived. The guy looked too dazzling. According to the system, the guy's name was Yuan Yi, and he was a peerless sword emperor, and his age was 22 years old. His special attribute was the Sword of Pain, but his characteristics were unknown. The quintessential male protagonist. Yan Wenhan was dazzled as the male protagonist appeared perfectly in front of him. Even the guy's abilities were different from the others. Yan Wenhan was defeated. The guy immediately walked up to Yan Wenhan and greeted him. He was happy that senior brother had finally appeared. Guy informs that from now on they will share blessings and overcome difficulties together as brothers. He even asks that if something happens to senior brother should tell him and he will come to his aid immediately. Yan Wenhan was surprised because junior brother was a great guy. At this moment, Yu Xin appeared and brought tea, advising master to drink tea better. Yan Wenhan had thought yesterday that Yu Xin had an over-the-top love for anime, but now she seemed the most down-to-earth to the guy. Yu Wanning decided that since everyone was gathered, they should quickly introduce themselves. Those who would make noise, she was going to kick them out. She even declared so that the others wouldn't waste her sleeping time. Everyone took turns to start introducing themselves. And Xuanzi is the reincarnation of the ancient spirit Gu. Yuan Yi is the reincarnated sword emperor. Yang Yuyi was also a reincarnation. Yu Xin is from the cat spirit clan. The guy was surprised that the introductions were incredibly short. In addition, all the introductions of the girls and the guy sounded pretentious to Yan Wenhan. Coughing, the guy excitedly stated that he was a native and was not a reincarnation. After the meeting, Yu Xin decided to show the guy the room. Yesterday, the room wasn't ready yet, so the guy had to sleep in the guest room. However, today they vacated it, and so Yu Xin decided to show the guy to his new room. Looking at the girl's back, he thinks she looks the most normal here. Soon, Yu Xin led in the guy to the luxurious room. Yan Wenhan was even surprised because there was a bedroom, living room, and bathroom. It was personal space and good living conditions for him. While the guy was still surprised and marveled at his new residence, Yu Xin happily announced that they would be living next door to each other from now on. Yan Wenhan thinks that now that they have sorted out their living arrangements, he would like to know what his job will be. After all the pretentious introductions in the morning, Yu Wanning immediately dismissed everyone without saying anything about work because she wanted to sleep. The silly guy even thought that getting paid without doing anything was somehow wrong. Yu Xin remarks with a smile that the guy will be explained his duties soon. After that, she took out her phone and was about to add the guy's contact and include him in the group chat. Even in the magical world, they use an iPhone. Yan Wenhan was greatly surprised to see the name of the group chat. 5 talks, 4 beauties. Today is another day without bloodshed. Yu Xin happily declares that this is the chat room of the master and her personal disciples. She shared that this chat room will have announcements for everyone. In addition, the chat helps to strengthen the bond among colleagues. Lying in bed in the evening, Yan Wenhan tried to think about what had happened to him today. Today, he had met the reincarnation of the ancient spirit Gu Maizhen reborn sword emperor. In addition, he had also met the reincarnation of the demon empress. The guy couldn't believe that everyone was so cool. He was still trying to figure out what the system was doing. The guy was a bit disappointed after all. If the system only showed stats, it was too weak. After all, compared to all the revived entities around him, he was just a passable secondary character. If he was in the outside world, he could do tricks even with his current system. He even imagined that in the outside world, he could work as the head of human resources. Suddenly, the system reported that the guy had collected 5 profiles of people, and now the familiarity system was available to him. The system also told him that when his familiarity points reached 10, the favor system would open up. As the level of favorability increased, the guy would be able to use different abilities of the respective character. He immediately became enthusiastic and sat on the bed. After all, he realized that if he pushed the favor of all the characters to the limit, he could become invincible. He was glad that his system had the potential to grow. Thinking back to all of his co-workers he had met today, the guy was slightly upset because his younger co-workers were all so arrogant despite their different characters. So it was hard for the guy to choose who he should start strengthening ties with first. Not thinking of anything better, he decided that whoever his finger points at first, he will start with that colleague. Through a difficult choice, he got junior sister Yu Xin. He even thought that Yu Xin looked the easiest to get close to, so he decided to maximize his acquaintance with her first. Yan Wenhan jumped up from the bed and walked to the mirror, trying to visualize the moment he met the girl. He decided from something to approach her and ask her if she was lonely at night, but he realized that it was too brazen an option. The guy didn't stop there and chose the option of letting the girl know he was sick. And when she asked him what he was sick with, he'd say he was sick with love for her. The guy fell to the floor and realized what a jerk he was, and that watching short videos on the internet had totally ruined him. Putting all his silly ideas aside, the guy decided to start with a casual greeting, and that maybe after that they could stargaze together. Walking around the dormitory, he soon found Yu Xin's room. The guy knocked on the door of the room and said that it was Yan Wenhan and that he would like to get to know his junior sister better. However, the answer for the guy was only silence. He thought that the girl must be practicing somewhere, although it was already too late. Deciding not to despair, he thought he would try tomorrow, for it had finally dawned on him that meeting a girl at night could be misunderstood. And I guess a guy forgets how old he is. Suddenly, Yang Yuyi, the fourth junior sister, appeared in front of him. The guy was startled by the sudden appearance of the girl. Yang Yuyi, on the other hand, pinned the guy against the wall and clamped his mouth with her hand. The guy couldn't understand what was happening, and the girl was already about to attack him. He was internally crying for help and thinking about the fact that he hadn't earned any familiarity points, but he would already be parting with his life. Yan Wenhan realized that he was just a minor character who hadn't really started his journey and would already meet his untimely demise. When the girl attacked him, he only noted that it was usually at this moment that a memory of a past life or some superpowers were awakened. Yang Yuyi returned late at night with a rabbit in her hands, leaving a bloody trail behind her. After returning to the dormitory and washing her hands, she left her room. Coming out of her room, she saw Yan Wenhan knocking on the door of Yu Xin's room and wanted to meet her. The girl paid attention to the guy's back, and hatred flashed in her eyes because maybe this was the one she had been looking for so long. The girl immediately attacked the guy, and he even closed his eyes in fright. However, at this moment, Yu Xin came out of her room. She asked the girl to wait and not end the guy's life. Yu Xin reminds Yang Yuyi that senior brother is in front of her and that he is a good person. Yang Yuyi immediately let the guy go after realizing who is in front of her. Yan Wenhan immediately burst into tears and his legs shook with fear. However, the guy's suffering did not end there. The girl pressed his hand against the wall with her foot and asked him why his back looked like that of her enemy. Yan Wenhan is crying and doesn't realize what's going on himself because he has the most ordinary average back. Yang Yuyi wonders if the guy is reincarnation. However, Yan Wenhan points out that he even said that he is a native and is not a reincarnation. The girl continues to interrogate the guy, wondering why he appeared in the valley and if he wants to kill them again. The guy is already freaking out too, since he doesn't know anything himself. Yu Xin also intervened and pointed out that there was some misunderstanding. Yan Wenhan himself would like to know why he was lured into the valley, but Yang Yuyi should ask Master about it. Yu Xin asks the girl to let senior brother go, as she has already noticed that the guy is choking. However, Yang Yuyi is persistent and notices that he used a similar trick last time to fool her former master. Therefore, the girl thinks that the guy might be faking it this time too. She couldn't believe the coincidences. Yan Wenhan made a pitying face and asked the girl what made her think he came to this place of his own free will. The guy admitted that he was just looking for a job and was tricked into coming to this place, and the contract was also indefinite, so he should complain. Yu Xin even admits that when they were flying on the scooter to the dormitory, senior brother jumped off the scooter and tried to escape, and that he really wasn't here of his own free will. Therefore, she informs that if sister wants to say something, then let her say it. However, even now, Yang Yuyi is not relenting and informs the guy that she will keep a close eye on him from now on, and if the guy behaves suspiciously again, he will be unfortunate. After she let him go and left, the guy still continued to stare after her and didn't understand why the girl reacted to him like that. Only after that did the guy turn to the system's information about Yang Yuyi. Familiarity points increased by 1 point. And also, the most important thing, Yang Yuyi searches for his nemesis every day. Yan Wenhan realized that the girl considered him as her enemy. Now he also understood why the girl was so emotional. He could not yet understand what the girl had gone through if she was always looking for her enemy. Yu Xin carefully inquired if senior brother was injured. The guy touched his neck with his hand, and Yu Xin immediately thought that the guy had a wound on his neck. She approached him to examine his neck, and he immediately turned red. The girl asked the guy to come into her bedroom where she would give him a healing potion. Yan Wenhan was shocked to hear such words from a girl and at such a time. The words about him going into the girl's bedroom kept appearing in his mind over and over again. He even thought that maybe the girl would sit down on the bed and tell him that her foot was hurt too, and then take off her shoes and ask the guy to put some ointment on her foot. He was all transfixed at such a sudden invitation to come to the girl's room, as he had never had such a thing before. Like an angel flying to the call of his goddess, the guy was going to go to her room. I wonder what other disappointments await this guy who is not discouraged even in a situation where he is a prisoner and may not even get paid. After a while, Yu Xin looked out of her room and wondered why the guy was still standing outside the door and not entering the room. The door opened and revealed a room that was shining and scented with the fragrance of flowers to the guy. This was the most important event in the guy's life. He would finally get into the girl's room. He was very nervous going into the girl's room for the first time and pondered on how he could look more experienced in this matter. He had only seen girls' rooms in comic books before. He pondered on whether the girl's room would be pink-colored and delicate. The guy pondered about it since he felt that the room reflected the character of the person. Yu Xin was perplexed as to what the guy was pondering about and why he was standing by the door to her room for so long without going inside. Taking a deep breath, he gained determination and was about to find out what it was like to be in the girl's room. However, once he stepped outside the threshold of the door to the girl's room, he was incredibly surprised. The first thing he saw was blood dripper, then he saw double-headed fork. But the thing that shocked him the most was when he saw the 1,000-swing mechanical umbrella. He couldn't believe that this was a girl's room. The guy was afraid for his life again, for he thought he might be subjected to all sorts of torture. At this moment, his legs were so weak that he didn't even believe that he would be able to escape from this place. However, taking one of her items in her hands, the girl didn't understand why senior brother was laughing at her. After all, she was just collecting such items. Yan Wenhan could not believe that a normal person would collect instruments of torture. Besides, all these things were piled up in a pile, not lying down like one would normally do when collecting something. The guy was disappointed as he realized that he was actually the only normal one in his new surroundings. Suddenly, the girl reached under the bed to get something out of there. She even asked her senior brother to wait for a while. The guy was already dreaming that now the sister would tell her brother that she was stuck. However, it was only his dreams, as she soon pulled out a wooden box from under the bed. When the girl opened the wooden box, the guy was faced with some very interesting gadgets that scared him. He immediately wondered why the girl was putting it all together. Not the least bit embarrassed, Yu Xin confesses that if she gets the opportunity in the future, she would like to honor her father. Yan Wenhan naively assumed that the girl's father actually liked collecting such things, and the girl was collecting all these things for her father. At this moment, he suddenly saw a message from the system that Yu Xin didn't have a very good relationship with her father. Now he realized that his earlier assumption had turned out to be wrong. The guy was wary and then remembered that the girl just now was acting strangely. He even assumed that there were sinister traits in junior sister's character. The girl then told the guy to sit down. After all, she was going to give him medicine. Yu Xin tried to justify the fourth junior sister by telling him that the girl was actually kind. She notices that fourth junior sister had a very hard time in her past life, so she asked that the guy be patient for a while. In addition, she notices that if a guy wants to blame someone, He should blame the nasty person who betrayed young Yuyi. Suddenly, the girl squeezed the medicine bottle so tightly that the bottle shattered into shards. Yu Xin even declared that if that vile man had been reborn, then it was necessary to kill him. The guy was startled to notice that although the girl had spoken politely, she had scared him incredibly. He decides to inquire if that nasty man is Yang Yuyi's ex-boyfriend. Yu Xin then tells him that the girl was a demon empress who was busy with her duties every day, so she had no time for love. The guy realized that that man was just an enemy of the girl, not a lover. Yu Xin notes with a smile that senior brother was lucky, as he only received a small superficial wound, but his predecessor was hurt worse. She even inquired if anything hurt the guy, but he decided to say that he didn't have any pain. He began to guess what the girl had originally meant to say. The poor guy was terrified, for he had been tricked into joining some sinister cult. Soon the girl put a cat-shaped adhesive bandage around the guy's neck. Then the guy bowed to the girl, asked her to get a good rest, wished her good night, and left her room. Meanwhile, a drunk standing nearby was happy that another day of unity and friendship had passed. After a while, Yan Wenhan went to the forest. He realized that the place and time was too dangerous. Even the girl he thought was soft and sweet turned out to be so cruel. He didn't give up his attempts to escape from this place. He wanted to get out of this place as soon as possible. However, his hands were shaking as he remembered that he was entitled to 20,000 yuan a month here, plus insurance. Standing in the forest, the guy almost cried. He was trying to figure out if he was ready to lead the life he had now. He lived with people who were either humans or demons, who could do whatever they wanted to him at any time. Yan Wenhan tried to cheer himself up with words and wasn't going to give up so easily. However, at the same moment, he remembered that even Yu Xin had many torture tools in his room. The guy was already crying in his heart, because what if the girl decided to use all these torture implements on him? Yan Wenhan realized that one could find riches in a dangerous place, but to enjoy it, one had to preserve one's life. The guy remembered that he had his ID card all this time, which only meant one thing, that it was as if God himself was telling him to escape from the devilish place. He decided to run away, and he didn't care about his belongings or his contract with the valley because he had no other choice. Breaking the contract was a serious decision, but he didn't realize what else could be done in such a situation. He kept running and running, while suspicious black crows circled around him. The guy couldn't understand what was really going on. After all, he had been running for so long, and yet he was still in the same place. In the distance, he could see the Wujiang city district, and the lights of high-rise buildings were also visible. However, he felt as if he was hitting a ghostly wall. The guy refused to believe such a thing and was unwilling to give up, so he decided to keep running. After a while, he still stopped and sat down, complaining that he was incredibly tired. He began to complain about how he didn't want to be trapped for the rest of his life, only now realizing that there was something wrong with his plan to escape. At that moment, a small scorpion-like monster climbed on top of him. The guy, angry for his life, immediately tossed the monster aside. However, this was a big mistake, because at the same moment, the parent of the offended little scorpion, a giant-sized scorpion-like monster, came out to the guy. At the same second, the guy fell to the ground and lost consciousness. And Zhuanzi then came out from behind the trees, leaving the giant monster puzzled. The girl crouched next to the guy, noticing that the master had said that they shouldn't let the guy escape. She told the monster to carry the guy back. After a while, Yan Wenhan opened his eyes, being outside the dormitory, next to Yu Wanning. After opening his eyes, he thought about the fact that he should have been dead a long time ago. Seeing Yu Wanning beside him, the guy did not continue to tolerate things as they were and declared that he wanted to quit. Yu Wanning immediately told the guy that they are a state-owned enterprise that provides a guarantee of wealth, so the guy will be able to go his whole life without worrying about subsistence. Yu Wanning wonders why the guy wants to quit then. She doesn't care about the guy's requests. She declares that she refuses to let him quit since the guy will have to work at this place for the rest of his life. Until she lets him quit, he will never leave the valley. Yu Wanning states that there will only be a small punishment for him this time. However, she points out that the guy wanted to escape, which means she has 10,000 ways to make the guy regret that decision. Turning around, the guy saw all of his new co-workers or family. They all seemed like incredibly dangerous thugs, ready to start torturing and bullying the guy at any second. The guy was scared beyond belief that he was about to be tortured. Yu Wanning states that everyone in this is friendly and nice, so she asks that the guy not upset them. At this point, the system reported his progress in getting to know Yu Wanning and that she shouldn't be pissed off. The guy had already convinced himself of this in practice. On March 23rd, the guy sat at his desk and wrote in his diary that he had been forced to work for another week, as a result of which he discovered that he had no acting ability whatsoever. He also noted that the third junior brother was a true king. 2 days ago, Yuan Yi was performing his training by practicing with his sword on the roof of the dormitory. However, his training was so noisy that Yu Wanning yelled at him as he was disturbing her. Yan Wenhan informed the guy about the words of the master, who told him to keep quiet and not to disturb others during his afternoon nap. Yan Wenhan even mentioned that if Yuan Yi did not follow this decision, Yu Wanning was going to go up to his roof. Yuan Yi immediately resented such a decision by the master, but immediately jumped off the roof. He apologized to his senior brother. He said that he tried his best to hold back, so he only used 1/10 of his strength. Yuan Yi began to talk about how the most important thing in practicing fencing was perseverance. In order to make progress, one could not back down. However, Yan Wenhan only became indignant because of the words he heard, that his brother was only using 1/10 of his strength. Yan Wenhan thought that they were all halfway to becoming gods. There was simply no one in the world that they couldn't handle. Suddenly, Yuan Yi declared that he should challenge his senior brother. Yan Wenhan was well aware of his position in the current hierarchy. He immediately revealed that he was just a weak person who had studied construction. He could assemble a house from bricks, but he couldn't prove himself worthy in fights. Yuan Yi couldn't believe it, because in his past life, all of his senior brothers were first apprentices of the master. He thought that since the master had named Yan Wenhan's senior brother, he was definitely capable. Yan Wenhan decided to even show off the books, again noting that he had studied construction and that it was his specialty. Looking at the books his senior brother showed him, the guy was incredibly surprised. Yan Wenhan tried to explain that he had gotten into this place apparently to help everyone else overcome a crisis in their development. Yan Wenhan said that there was only one word to explain his position: babysitter. Yuan Yi began to put all the items of Yan Wenhan's duties together in his head. Taking care of everyone, dealing with all problems, abilities maximized. The guy was incredibly happy because senior brother was a great person he should learn a bossy but humble demeanor from. He even stated that he was still too young, so he was going to behave the same way as senior brother from now on. At this moment, the system reported the guy's progress in understanding Yuan Yi. The system also told that Yuan Yi was a true genius, but except for swordsmanship, the guy had almost no life experience. Yan Wenhan was shocked at what he saw, for the guy in front of him was like a blank slate. He even assumed that the guy had been locked up in a temple in his past life, forcing him to practice swordsmanship until his death. Yan Wenhan remarked that the guy had gotten it right, that you should behave with restraint, not letting people guess your true abilities. He was about to point out that it could help at a critical moment. However, the guy misinterpreted his words and thought that restraint allowed one to pretend to be invisible. Yan Wenhan was slightly surprised after hearing the guy's words. He thought that perhaps the minds of all male protagonists were incredibly strange. Yuan Yi wondered if this was what was meant in Long Aotian's novels. He felt that senior brother's words had really enlightened him. Long Aotian is a Chinese figurative name for an unrealistically lucky and capable character. Yan Wenhan immediately realized that the protagonist was really quite a strange guy. He was just a random co-worker of such great people, who could float in the clouds and fly swords. However, Yuan Yi still listened to his instructions. Yan Wenhan now couldn't understand whether the world had gone mad or he himself had gone mad. After that, Yuan Yi summoned the Abyss Vault and put the journal with the precepts he had just written down there. He cheerfully inquired if it was actually incredibly fun to be in the company of people. The guy admitted that he had never left the valley after being reborn, but he would really like to see the outside world. Yuan Yi even asked if senior brother could accompany him to the outside world. Yan Wenhan thought about the guy's words. After pondering, he noticed that it seemed that the Immortal Cultivators Association had strict requirements for reborn like Yuan Yi, as they might accidentally use their skills in the human world. Looking at Yuan Yi, who was waving his sword in front of him, Yan Wenhan inwardly complained. After all, the swordsman in front of him, who was only using a tenth of his strength, was capable of doing incredible things. That was why Yan Wenhan was pondering whether such gifted ones could be controlled. Yuan Yi grabbed his senior brother's hand and asked if he would help him. He admitted that he had lived in the Middle Ages and had never seen modern times, so if things continued like this, he would be considered a redneck. Yan Wenhan absolutely could not understand why he had to put up with Yuan Yi's flirtatiousness. After a moment, it reached him that it was probably because of the protagonist halo that emanated from Yuan Yi. Back in the present, as he wrote all of this down in his diary, he pondered over whether or not it was worth bringing Yuan Yi to the outside world. Guy understood that such an act could increase familiarity, points, and Yuan Yi's favor towards him. Guy decided not to bother and shift this burden to someone else. He decided to ask Master about everything when he asked for a vacation tomorrow. He had missed a month and needed to prepare for his diploma defense. If Yu Wanning agreed to his terms, then a contract would then need to be made with Yuan Yi so that Yuan Yi could not use his abilities in the outside world and would obey him in everything. In the morning, Yu Wanning sat on a chair and rested while Yu Xin walked around her. Yu Wanning's patience was already running out, so she asked the girl if what she was doing was ready. Not stopping the bottle in the slightest, Yu Xin pointed out that it needed a good shake for at least 5 minutes to foam up. Just at that moment, Yan Wenhan knocked on the door. He said that he wanted to take a short break to go to his diploma defense. Master told the guy to enter the room. Yu Xin had just finished making a cocktail and placed it on the table. The guy was surprised at how incredible Yu Xin's bartending skills were. Watching Yu Wanning sipping her cocktail with Yu Xin standing next to her, the guy noticed that sometimes their company's staffing system resembled a queen and a group of her loyal followers. Yu Wanning then handed the guy a sheet, asking him to fill it out. After looking at the form, he noticed that it actually looked quite formal, which pleased the guy for the first time. However, the guy was too naive, because at this moment in his thoughts, Yu Wanning noted that this was the first time someone had taken the initiative to notify her that they wanted a vacation. Therefore, this is the first time the vacation request form is used. After filling out the necessary papers, the guy gave them to Yu Wanning and also asked her permission to take Yuan Yi into the city with him. Yan Wenhan noted that Yuan Yi had confessed to him that he had never left the valley and that he wanted to see the world with his own eyes. However, at this moment, Yu Wanning's face instantly turned serious. Yu Xin also had a change in her face. The guy instantly noticed that Yu Xin and Yu Wanning's faces became serious, so he thought about the fact that it looked like Yuan Yi had already had some unpleasant incidents. However, after thinking about it for a bit, Yu Wanning held out a sheet for the guy to also fill out a form for Yuan Yi. Yan Wenhan was even disappointed because he had expected to at least be warned of any problems or told about precautions. Suddenly, Yu Wanning said that Yu Xin's father had sent her a message. The girl was surprised to hear about it. Yu Wanning also added that if the girl went home, she should take senior brother with her. The guy immediately remembered that this is the same father who likes all kinds of torture. Yu Xin's father said that he might be dying, so he asked his daughter to come home to see him. Yu Xin couldn't hide her emotions. It was obvious that she was upset. Despite what she had said earlier, Yu Wanning said that it would be up to Yu Xin to decide whether or not to go. She noted that if Yu Xin didn't want to go, there was nothing her family could do about it. Yu Xin tried to think about her current situation. The aura around her at this moment was quite depressing. After just a moment, the girl regained her fighting spirit and declared that she wanted to find her mom, so she would go home together with senior brother. With great reluctance, the guy agreed to go with the girl to her home. Just at this moment, Yu Wanning took out another piece of paper. She told the guy to sign a pamphlet about the responsibility of guardians. If anything happened during the trip, Yan Wenhan should take responsibility. Looking at the responsibility pamphlet he had to sign, the guy felt like a youngster on a pirate ship. After a while, the babysitter, who is also known as Yan Wenhan, arrived with Yuan Yi and Yu Xin at the train station. Yuan Yi calmly walked through the turnstile of the train station and asked the others to hurry up. Carrying his suitcase, Yan Wenhan was angry and surprised at the same time because earlier Yuan Yi had told him that he had never left the valley. He didn't understand how the guy had such a confident demeanor back then. At a glance, Yan Wenhan could tell that the guy had a lot of experience. However, Yuan Yi asked that senior brother didn't think he was so smart because he had just studied the process of traveling on a high-speed train on the internet. Why at this moment Yuan Yi's face was covered in cold sweat. Yan Wenhan also felt that he couldn't trust the guy in this matter. Afterward, they took the train and traveled to the city. It was still not clear what the guy was doing here in the first place. It has already been a long time, and he only showed one moment as a babysitter with Yuan Yi, and now he is already going to the outside world. What kind of thing is Yuan Yi going to do again? It seems Yan Wenhan will definitely be left without vacation and money after what Yuan Yi and Yu Xin will do during his trip, as the losses will be enormous. At night, the train carrying Yan Wenhan, Yuan Yi and Yu Xin was still traveling on its route. Yan Wenhan slept the whole way, while Yu Xin was still worried about the upcoming meeting. The system had told him earlier that Yu Xin actually hated her father, so the guy couldn't fully understand the girl's feelings. In the end, he decided that since the girl's father was seriously ill, perhaps the bloodline was making the girl worry about her father. However, he pulled the sleep blindfold over his eyes again, deciding that the girl would tell him everything herself if she had the desire to talk about it. Yu Xin continued to stare out the train window with sadness in her eyes, immersed in her thoughts. In the morning, the train arrived safely at the station, and Yan Wenhan, Yuan Yi and Yu Xin left the train. Yuan Yi complained to senior brother that junior sister hadn't slept a wink all night and was staring sadly out the window. Yan Wenhan tried to keep the guy's voice down, telling him that there was trouble in the girl's family. So he asked the guy to leave the girl alone and not to pester her on this trip, as if the girl with her big cat ears could not hear them. Yuan Yi sadly remarked that he had always thought that Yu Xin was the master's adopted daughter. He even admitted that he had been in their so-called company for over a decade, but he had never seen Yu Xin leave the valley. Such news made even Yan Wenhan surprised. Yuan Yi had long believed that the girl was an orphan. Yan Wenhan had a rich imagination, so after remembering that Yu Xin had run away from her father but mentioned that she wanted to find her mother, he made up a story. He thought that a story about an abusive tyrant father from whom his wife first left and then his daughter ran away made sense. Yuan Yi immediately called out to the guy, who immediately reacted with obvious displeasure at being mentioned again. The guy pointed at the car, and then Yan Wenhan himself took a look, and his jaw almost dropped to the floor when he saw the huge number of expensive cars. Yan Wenhan, as an ordinary person, was shocked by the accumulation of so many expensive cars, even thinking that it looked like a movie was being filmed in this place. The other people around were also wondering who so many cars had come for. They thought that with such pomp they must be meeting a celebrity or one of the richest people in the country. Yan Wenhan noticed that there were no cameras around, which meant that this was not a movie shoot. This made him even more curious to know who such a cortege of cars had come for. Suddenly, people approached them, and the man greeted Yu Xin, calling her second mistress, and then invited her to get into the car. The man turned out to be a butler. He relayed the request of the older mistress who wanted to talk to Yu Xin. Yan Wenhan couldn't hide his surprise because it appeared that all these cars had come to meet Yu Xin. Besides, since it was the first time they had come to visit in a long time, no one wanted to refuse the meeting. The butler's aura abruptly changed before he asked Yu Xin not to keep the older mistress waiting for too long. Yu Xin informed Yan Wenhan and Yuan Yi that she had business at home and that she would contact them later. Yan Wenhan still didn't fully understand what was going on, but didn't stop the girl agreeing with her decision. However, Yuan Yi, who was clearly taller than the butler, intervened. He asked if the girl needed help. The girl only smiled, seeing the guy's concern. She asked Yuan Yi and Yan Wenhan not to worry about her because she was fine. After that, Yu Xin went to one of the cars where her older sister was sitting. The older sister was the chairman of Tamal Technology Group, and her name was Yu Qian. Yu Qian informed her sister that their father had been attacked, so he was in the process of dying. The father wanted to see with his youngest daughter, so Yu Qian asked her sister to come back with her. Yu Xin didn't fight back and show her combative nature this time, but obediently got into the car. Yuan Yi was able to catch that senior brother seemed to have noticed a surprising feature as well. Yan Wenhan sighed regretfully and noticed that Yu Xin didn't seem to have the best relationship with family. As the girl and the motorcade of cars headed home, the guy marveled at the fact that Yu Xin was the daughter of such a rich man. He couldn't even think that her family was so rich. Besides, in his mind, such families usually represented a tangle of intrigue. The situation made Yuan Yi share a story from her life with Yan Wenhan. In his past life, Yuan Yi had a cousin whose name was Xiao Yang. His engagement was cancelled because he couldn't develop in cultivation, which was a big trouble for the family. Yan Wenhan agreed with him, thinking that Yu Xin was worrying too much because of family problems while they were on the train last night. The guys in the vicinity of Yan Wenhan were still discussing what was happening. One guy pointed out that the chairman of Tmall Technology Group was sitting in the car. Another guy was now not surprised that there was such a pompous motorcade. Tmall Technology Group is the leader of the technology industry with a market value of over $100 billion. Yan Wenhan was surprised because Tmall Technology Group was the same famous corporation that he had heard of many times before. At the same moment, a system window popped up, where Yu Xin's information also added that she was the sister of the chairman of the Tmall Technology Group. He was distracted from his musings by Yuan Yi, who was curious about where they were going next. Yan Wenhan needed to deal with his study matters first, so he suggested the guy stay at a nearby hotel as it was inexpensive and had good food. However, Yan Wenhan was wary of leaving the guy alone. He wondered that if the guy represented the image of the protagonist, he could surely have the hidden identity of a rich young gentleman. Yuan Yi turned on fool mode, stating that he was from another time, so other than wielding a sword, he had no other skills. The guy even moved closer to Yan Wenhan, informing him that he was in such a hurry that he had completely forgotten to take the money. Only now did Yan Wenhan notice that the guy was incredibly destitute, and all he had brought with him was his ID card. He hadn't even brought his suitcase with him, much less money. Yan Wenhan realized that there was a reason he suspected that the guy was somehow moving around easily. In his heart of hearts, he was just furious, since the guy didn't even bring any money with him. A scheme immediately appeared in Yan Wenhan's mind that Yuan Yi was without money and incredibly dangerous, so Yan Wenhan had to pay for a hotel, and a hotel was incredibly expensive. He even dared to remember that he had never been paid his salary. Yuan Yi didn't understand what salary senior brother was talking about. Yan Wenhan tried to be more persistent to find out if the guy had received anything from the company, but he only looked at him perplexed. At this moment, Yan Wenhan realized that the system was right when it said that salary were not paid on time. Yuan Yi immediately changed his face, informing him that surely the salary had already been transferred and today was a day off, so the accountant was not working. Yuan Yi read the situation perfectly, that it seems the foreman had once again cheated the man and not pay the salary. He thought that the master was incorrigible in this regard. He was only allowing the master to be scolded because they were not in the valley right now. However, Yan Wenhan once again questioned whether this was really the case, as the guy said. Yuan Yi, covered in cold sweat, continued to assure the guy that it was. Realizing that there was no way to solve the situation now, Yan Wenhan thought of calling a friend from the university. He was going to ask her if she had a free place for the guy to stay. The girl quickly agreed to the guy's request. After receiving the girl's consent to stay with her, the guys soon arrived at the university dormitory building. The girls couldn't take their eyes off Yuan Yi, trying to figure out what kind of handsome man had appeared in front of them. Yuan Yi noticed that he was attracting the attention of the girls. He even winked at the two girls who were looking at him in love. Yan Wenhan was extremely unhappy with something like this, because he had seen in person how the protagonist had his privileges. He even had to suspend Yuan Yi from flirting with the girls. Once inside the dormitory and walking down the hallway, Yan Wenhan began to tell the guy that he had talked to his neighbors. As it turned out, someone was just about to go for an internship, so the dorm room was vacant. So Yan Wenhan offered the guy to live with him on campus for the duration of his vacation. Yuan Yi was incredibly excited to hear such news. He had never lived in a dormitory, so he wanted to experience the life of a student. The clock was already showing 5 a.m., and Yan Wenhan was still sleeping, while Yuan Yi was using magic outside of Hogwarts. He even started to wake up senior brother, since it was time for them to get up to go to training. After opening one eye and looking at the time on his phone, the guy didn't understand why Yuan Yi woke him up so early. However, Yuan Yi thought otherwise, because 5 o'clock in the morning was already late, as the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was most pure at 4 o'clock in the morning. The still sleepy Yan Wenhan stroked the guy's head and asked him to be a good boy and go to bed. In addition, he reminded the lad that it was forbidden to use abilities outside the valley. Yuan Yi was a diligent student, noticing that if he didn't practice constantly, it meant he would regress. He began to complain that he was regressing a little every day while others were improving at the same time. Because of these missed training sessions, he believed that he couldn't become the best in the world. Yan Wenhan was well aware that Yuan Yi would not lose a single bit of strength. He even told Yuan Yi to train in his sleep, but he kept pestering him. Yuan Yi was like an annoying mosquito that prevented him from sleeping at night. Yan Wenhan was furious that the guy kept bothering him. 15 minutes later, Yan Wenhan gave up under the guy's onslaught. He thought the guy was like a puppy who woke up early in the morning and asked to go outside to use the bathroom, squatting beside his bed and poking his master with his paw. Since the guy needed training so badly, Yan Wenhan decided to take him to a boxing class. Yuan Yi was unbelievable that senior brother gave in and let him train. Soon they walked down to the outdoor basketball court. Yan Wenhan was literally crying, not realizing where he had gone wrong in his previous life. In this life, not only did he sign an illegal labor contract, along with a delayed salary, but he had to get up at the crack of dawn to take Yuan Yi to practice. Yuan Yi was overjoyed to call senior brother so kind as he agreed to let him train. Yan Wenhan was still dealing with the realization of his life, not realizing what good all this torment would do except for the psychological trauma. At this point, the system decided to help the guy find meaning in his actions. The system made it clear that as long as the guy practiced with Yuan Yi, he would be considered his good friend. In addition, Yuan Yi's favor towards him increased by 0.5. The system also said that Yuan Yi had to train every morning or he would start to think that he was regressing. The only thing the guy was happy about was that Yuan Yi's favor function had turned on. The guy was curious if he would be able to use 0.5% of Yuan Yi's skills in this case. The system confirmed this claim. Yan Wenhan immediately ran up to Yuan Yi, informing him that he would train with him every day from now on, and that he would accompany him wherever he went. Yuan Yi was surprised, but thought that senior brother had just suddenly gained enlightenment. After practicing enough, they went to canteen number 2. Yan Wenhan had an appetite and asked his auntie to put some pork stew on his plate. He thought that when happy events happened, people felt elated. He even thought that when he returned to the valley, he would get himself a sword so that he could fully experience the joy of becoming a great swordsman. The guy looked at the woman expectantly, waiting for his food. The woman scooped it up and watched the guy's admiring gaze. The woman then forcefully splashed the pork stew onto his tray. Yan Wenhan was shocked, for his pork stew had turned into no good. He even asked the woman if it was edible, calling her auntie. The woman was extremely displeased, and she was obviously angry that the guy called her auntie. She told him to move and not to hold up the line. The saddened guy silently moved away, clearing the queue. Following him came Yuan Yi, who called the woman little sister and said he wanted to eat. The woman blushed, thinking she was past her age, but continued to pile pork stew on the guy's plate. She wondered if the guy had enough, and if he wanted more, he should tell her. She thought the guy was too skinny, so he should eat better. Yan Wenhan was disgusted to even listen to the conversation between the woman and Yuan Yi. However, in the next moment, Yuan Yi put his finger on the woman's lips, asking her to speak so badly about herself anymore. He also called the woman little sister once again. At this moment, even Yan Wenhan couldn't contain his emotions and seemed to be petrified by the whole situation. Looking at Yuan Yi's plate, which had a mountain of pork stew on it, Yan Wenhan was extremely dissatisfied. He felt ill at ease around the guy who always gave off the cursed aura of the protagonist. Yuan Yi was the perfect guy who was obviously loved by all the mums. Yan Wenhan was in floods of tears, realizing once again that he was just an ordinary working man on the sidelines. He couldn't sleep as much as he wanted, eat what he wanted, or wear cool clothes. His whole life was just bleak compared to the protagonist. Happy Yuan Yi, seeing the upset senior brother, even offered him some pork stew from his plate. Soon, a satisfied Yan Wenhan left the canteen together with Yuan Yi. This was the first time he was able to eat so much in the canteen. Now he thought it was great to be the brother of the protagonist, as Yuan Yi had given him some of his portion of pork stew and even offered to ask his little sister for more if senior brother still wasn't full. After that, Yan Wenhan informed the guy that the guy could go shopping in the afternoon. He had a diploma defense this Friday, so he couldn't accompany the guy. Yuan Yi did not hold back in the slightest, immediately extended his hand and informed him that in human society one cannot do without money. Yan Wenhan was still a complete fool, as he thought that since the guy didn't have any cash with him, he should have paid for his purchases with his cell phone. However, Yuan Yi was not a stupid guy at all, so he recalled that the master had said that Yan Wenhan was his babysitter and that he could ask him for anything. Finally, holding back his sadness, Yan Wenhan handed the guy 100 yuan. This was a lot of money for him. Yuan Yi thanked senior brother even for such an amount of money. As soon as Yan Wenhan stepped back, the guy immediately called a cab through his phone, which pulled up rather quickly. As soon as he jumped into the cab, the driver greeted him, because it was an unusual cab. The driver immediately and clearly told him where the guy was going. The total cost of the trip was 70 yuan. The guy got into the cab like a king, saying that he would pay in cash. The cab went to its destination before the foolish Yan Wenhan realized that he had been cheated out of his money. Not only did he not get paid by the so-called company, but he also gave away his hard-earned 100 yuan to Yuan Yi. Nowadays, you should carefully read any document you sign. Soon, Yuan Yi arrived at the designated destination by cab. The salesman behind the counter complained that he had no customers. Behind the salesman, you can see figurines of many familiar characters like Totoro or Hatsune Miku. Just then, Yuan Yi came into the store to see this salesman. He smiled happily and stated that he needed 30 game coins for the Dragon Slayer game. The salesman sluggishly stated that the service the guy asked for would cost 30 yuan. When the salesman asked him how he would pay, Yuan Yi held out 30 yuan in cash to him. The salesman saw the 30 yuan and considered that 30 game coins was only 5 minutes of gameplay. He was upset that for the guy to play for 5 minutes, he would have to run the slot machine. Looking at Yuan Yi's face, the salesman thought that the guy was incredibly stupid. Nevertheless, sadly exhaling, the salesman led the guy to the slot machine, determined to show him how to turn it on. He only asked the guy to put the coins into the machine and he would take them away later. Yuan Yi understood the instructions voiced by the salesman perfectly. After a while, the salesman noticed that the guy still hadn't left. At the same time, he discovered a crowd of people near one of the slot machines. Everyone present was amazed by what they saw. Someone even noted that although the game had high rewards, it required a huge investment. There were rumors that the game was not created to pass, but to swindle money. However, the Yuan Yi sitting in front of them was masterfully playing a game that everyone thought was incredibly difficult. The guy next to Yuan Yi was ecstatic. He stated that Yuan Yi was at a royal level and that with such skills, Yuan Yi was not inferior to the top masters of cyber sports. The guy was ecstatic, wanting to see Yuan Yi advance to a level with major prizes. The salesman was shocked, as he knew that it would take hand speed to make 300 hits in 10 seconds for a professional player to win at this particular slot machine. Watching Yuan Yi's hands, the salesman even thought about the fact that the guy in front of him was possibly a professional. However, the salesman exhaled heavily when he remembered that he had set the maximum winnings of a few hundred yen on the slot machine. At least he thought so. Therefore, he was glad that more than this amount, the game would not allow anyone to win. And if the guy increased the difficulty, the salesman believed that the guy would lose everything he had gained so far. A few moments later, Yuan Yi still continued to play and didn't even think about losing. The salesman came closer to him and asked him if he was tired and if he wanted to eat. The salesman was shocked and didn't understand what was even going on and why the guy kept winning. An overjoyed Yuan Yi informed the salesman that he was not tired at all. He even stated that everything before was just a warm-up. But he was still happy that the salesman cared about him so much. The salesman was puzzled to hear the guy say it was a warm-up. Some more time passed. The salesman again asked the guy if he was tired, but he instantly told the salesman that he was not tired. The salesman's face became covered with cold sweat, and he again asked the guy if he was tired, but the guy again said no. The salesman's face became even more covered in cold sweat as he began to hint to the guy that he could see the guy was already tired. The joyful Yuan Yi once again replied in the negative. The salesman had already become furious. He was already tired himself, and the guy in front of him was still not tired. He was furious because the amount of winnings of the guy in front of him had already crossed 10,000 yuan. The salesman clearly remembered setting the mode of the slot machine, so he didn't understand why the guy in front of him was still winning. The salesman told the guy that games are good for the brain, but if you spend a lot of time playing games, it will start to be harmful. He had already asked the guy to stop for a while and buy himself something. After seeing on the monitor that the game was over, the salesman was finally happy. Yuan Yi thought that the salesman was right and that he should take a rest, but first exchange the game coins for the winnings. He decided that it was better not to slaughter all the fat rams at once, but to leave some for divorce. Looking at the mountain of coins that the guy brought to him, the salesman could no longer hide his tears and cried. He counted all the coins, finding 10,000 coins there. The guy decided to break the salesman completely when he told him that he still had coins in his pockets. The salesman seemed to crack like a statue in his soul. After inspecting the mountains of coins provided by the guy and then counting them, the salesman stated that the total amount was 30,000 yuan. He even offered the guy a ring as a gift and also asked the guy to never come to his arcade again. The joyful Yuan Yi turned around and then put the ring on his finger. He was so happy because life was actually incredibly simple. The salesman at the same time was in tears because he usually takes all the money from the visitors, but today a huge amount of money was taken from him. After earning some money, he decided to treat senior brother to something delicious. He thought that senior brother would be incredibly happy about it. After looking around, he decided that it was too early, so he decided to look for some other entertainment. Soon enough, he was taking away lollipops on a stick from the children. The police then gave him a bravery award because he helped apprehend a criminal. After that, he went to a contest. In the contest, you had to outdo a pumped-up man in athletics to get a small fitness kit worth 1,888 yuan. When Yuan Yi lifted the barbell with just one index finger of his right hand, the pumped-up man simply cried at what he saw. After a while, with a mountain of prizes won, he was surprised that the day had passed so quickly. Having had enough fun, he decided to find a place to eat. As soon as he arrived at the establishment, the girl at the entrance of the establishment recognized him immediately. She asked him if she would do everything the same for him as she had done last time. Handing her all the prizes he had won, he cheerfully answered in the affirmative, saying that he would like to see all the new items on the menu lately. The waitress was happy, for their chef had recently launched a series of high-end dishes. For example, as the main course, one could choose Mediterranean sea base with secret spices. After hearing the descriptions of the food from the girl, the guy declared for her to bring a similar dish. He admitted that although he was not good at the names of dishes, he was willing to try it. The waitress first offered to help the guy with his things. The guy was not against it. Soon the girl ordered the appetizers to be served. The waitresses with strained smiles brought out the appetizers for the guy to sample. Slowly, the guy's table was filled with various appetizers. The waitress at this moment was pouring wine into his glass. Looking at the glass of wine in front of him, the guy began to complain about how life was empty if he couldn't practice fencing. The girl reminded Yuan Yi that the guy hadn't come to see them for 2 months already. She even wondered what important things the guy had been doing all this time. He was surprised to hear that he might have some important things to do. After all, he didn't like doing important things. He was more interested in fencing that way, and money wasn't that important to him. Nevertheless, he would like to take some food to his senior brother. A few minutes later, Yuan Yi finished eating and carefully wiped his mouth with the prepared napkin. He asked for the rest of the food to be collected for him. The girl obediently complied with his suggestion. She stated that he was their honorary customer, and so they decided to give him an extra dessert so that Yuan Yi's friend could taste the dessert. She kindly asked the guy to come to them again. Yuan Yi also suddenly asked to add a portion of fruit pancakes, which caused a bewildered look on the girl's face. He didn't stop there, stating that he still needed 3 more kidneys medium rare. He needed all of this because his senior brother was preparing for his diploma defense, and senior brother needed a lot of energy. He also asked for another portion of 9-quart colon, which retained the original flavor, since the man needed to be awake. The girl was a little surprised at such an unexpected request from the guy. Yuan Yi admitted that he had heard that the dish was popular, so he thought that senior brother would like this dish. Soon, Yuan Yi returned to the dormitory. He immediately announced his return and that he had brought some gifts for Yan Wenhan. Yan Wenhan immediately resented why Yuan Yi had returned to the dormitory so late. As soon as he looked at the guy for just a moment, he was immediately surprised. Yuan Yi, with lipstick marks on his neck, asked the guy to stop reading. After all, it was time for a snack. Yan Wenhan was surprised. After all, he had only given the guy 100 yuan, and the guy had so many things with him. Yuan Yi only smiled in response. He thought that senior brother was incredibly kind to him. Besides, he didn't expect that he could buy so many things with 100 yuan. Yan Wenhan understood everything perfectly. He remembered that when the guy begged him to take him along, the guy had told him that he had never left the valley. However, Yan Wenhan increasingly understood perfectly that Yuan Yi had downplayed the meaning of his words, to say the least. He once again self-pityingly and enviously remarked that the guy was just a protagonist. Suddenly, the system alert went off. The system said that the familiarity points with Yuan Yi had been increased by 5. Thus, the familiarity points with Yuan Yi were already 15. However, after looking at the system's description, Yan Wenhan immediately noticed that the system had just removed some of the information about Yuan Yi being the quintessential male protagonist. No sooner had he thought about this information than he noticed a lipstick mark on the guy's neck. Yan Wenhan was simply annihilated that even on the love front, the guy was doing well. However, until this moment, he had yet to see what exactly Yuan Yi had brought him as a gift, and what he wanted to treat him with. After looking at the food that Yuan Yi had brought him, Yan Wenhan was simply furious. After all, he never thought that Yuan Yi would bring him such food and decide to take care of his male health. Poor Yan Wenhan, everyone is constantly humiliating and bullying him, even though he sometimes acts like a total jerk himself. A few days later, after defending his diploma thesis, the guy and his roommate were packing their things. The roommate was wondering Yan Wenhan what he would do next. The guy had heard that Wenhan had received an offer from some enduring company. Yan Wenhan mentioned with sadness in his voice that he needed to go back to work for the company. The guy wondered what Wenhan would do with the pile of luggage that Yuan Yi had brought. In his soul, Yan Wenhan was already ready to cry as he couldn't bear the burden of the protagonist's halo. Soon Yan Wenhan and Yuan Yi arrived at the train station. However, the guy was already starting to get angry since Yu Xin still hadn't arrived at the train station. Also, their train would be leaving soon, so they needed to hurry. Yuan Yi thought that Yu Xin most likely had some urgent business at home, so he suggested that they take the train without her. Yan Wenhan was still worried about the girl since she wasn't answering his calls and messages. Besides, he complained that if they all came together, they should leave together. He felt that the whole situation could be compared to losing a small child. Suddenly, he was surprised himself as he realized that he had turned into a babysitter. The guy knew very well that although the girl had lived in the valley for many years, it was unlikely that she could get lost and not arrive at the train station on time. Yan Wenhan even thought that perhaps it was his own fault. Grasping his head with his right hand, he sadly noticed that he had judged the girl too highly, so he could not have thought that such a situation would happen. Yuan Yi grabbed his hands and with innocent eyes informed him that senior brother was so kind. At this moment, a system alert popped up. The system reported that the familiarity score with Yuan Yi had increased by 5 points, as well as the favor by 0.5. Since Yuan Yi's favor had reached 1, Yuan Yi's skills would now be available to the guy. According to the system, the host could use 20% of Yuan Yi's skills. The system also motivated the guy to work hard to unlock all the Yuan Yi skills. Yan Wenhan was incredibly excited about the system's alert, so now new skills were available to him. Looking at the yawning Yuan Yi, the guy was wondering what kind of incredible strength now awaited him if it was 20% of Yuan Yi's strength. He had already even started to fantasize about him chopping a mountain with a single sweep of his hand. However, what scared him was how much damage he could do with just 20% of the peerless Sword Emperor's strength. The system suggested that the guy try to use Yuan Yi's strength. In order to use a particular person's power, one had to click on the character's avatar. Yan Wenhan refused the system's offer in a panic. Suddenly, Yuan Yi asked him to look in the indicated direction. On the monitor screen at the train station, they saw an unimaginable sight. Yu Xin was informing the world at a press conference that their father needed to recover from his illness. The guys were surprised to see the girl on TV. Yu Qian announced that she would take over all the affairs of their group of companies from this day forward. As the current executive director of Tmall Technology Group, she pledged to handle all major issues. She also announced that her sister Yu Xin, who graduated from Columbia University, would assist her as a special assistant to the chairman. Yan Wenhan was surprised at such a blatant lie about Yu Xin studying at Columbia University. Yuan Yi immediately noticed that Yu Xin didn't look very happy about being appointed to a new position. He even thought that it was as if the girl was being held hostage. The guy remembered how the master had told him about Tmall Technology Group Corporation, that they were part of Spirit Cat Clan. After gathering his courage, Yan Wenhan, a pathetic coward and weakling, decided that they needed to go and figure out what was going on by themselves. He figured that if the girl didn't want to be there, that they would get her out of there along with her tail. Meanwhile, Yu Qian was angry at her younger sister. She didn't understand why her sister wasn't happy and whether her sister thought her position was too low. Yu Qian's patience came to an end, and she continued to yell at her sister as she felt as if her sister wanted to take her position. Yu Xin sadly informed her that this was not what she meant. Yu Qian was eager to find out then what her sister was unhappy about and what she meant. Plus, she reminded her sister once again that they were already hiding her sister's true origin. Yu Xin tried to hold back and could not object to her sister. Yu Qian informed her sister that the position of special assistant to the chairman was actually a gift that her sister could only receive when the old man appeared to be sick and was no longer in his clear mind. Yu Qian thought that the sister should be happy, or rather must be happy with what she was given, or else the sister would have to work as a cleaning lady. Yu Xin gathered her courage and declared that she wanted to see her mom. Yu Qian got angry at the mere thought and began to mock her sister. After all her sister could learn from her mother was how to seduce men and steal other people's husbands. Yu Xin tried to contradict her sister and explain that her mother is not at all what her sister imagines her to be. However, Yu Qian was annoyed that her sister still did not recognize who her mother was. She began to insult Yu Xin, considering her an illegitimate daughter. Yu Qian thought that the fact that she was even talking to Yu Xin and offering anything at all was already a big concession, so she asked not to be disrespectful to her. After exhaling all of her anger, Yu Qian sat down on the chair once again. She asked her sister to treat her mother as if she were dead. Especially in her opinion, Yu Xin had been living perfectly fine without her mother all this time. Yu Xin was angered by the accusations from her sister. She recalled that she left the family after Yu Qian promised that she would protect her mother. The girl saw nothing strange in the fact that she now wished to know how her mother lived and where she was. Yu Qian very much disliked her sister's reply that her sister saw nothing wrong with her request. She reminded her younger sister that if her sister's real origin was revealed, it would damage the family's reputation. In addition, Yu Qian said that she could not guarantee that the clan elders would be merciful to everyone. The elder sister's words slightly shattered Yu Xin's resolve. Yu Qian asked her sister to think hard about everything, and also asked her sister to remember that no matter what her sister thought or who she was in the past, she was now considered her sister. Yu Qian told the sister to remember the main thing, that the sister was studying abroad and therefore rarely appeared in public. She pointed out that their family has a harmonious relationship, so they are not only sisters but also friends. In addition, all of this is also part of Tmall Technology Group's corporate image. After her words, Yu Qian suddenly switched to threatening. She declared that if she saw the unhappy expression on Yu Xin's face again, Yu Xin would find his mother's body in some ditch. Her words easily brought Yu Xin to his knees, which was not surprising. After all, it was impossible to reach the position Yu Qian currently held without getting her hands dirty along the way. Yu Xin cried, unable to hold back any longer. She confessed to her sister that she hadn't seen her mom in over a decade. The girl promised that she wouldn't talk to her mom or do anything else. She just wanted to know that her mom was okay. After that, she promised that she would listen to her sister and do whatever her sister told her to do. Yu Qian looked at Yu Xin with disdain. She wondered why her sister was kneeling, because if anyone saw her sister kneeling, she would be considered a villain. The second young mistress of the Yu family cannot kneel, losing her dignity and begging for mercy. Yu Qian told her sister to be happy as her sister had a cute face, so her sister shouldn't be sad or anything. Just at this moment, Secretary Rong Wei walked into the office and saw Yu Xin kneeling down. He apologized for disturbing Yu Qian, but the girl asked him to go into the office and ignore anything. Yu Qian immediately told her sister to stop kneeling, for she had already realized how kind her sister was and that her sister was sincerely remorseful. Rong Wei brought the will that Mr. Yu's notary had prepared at Mr. Yu's request. Yu Qian immediately began to study the will. She discovered that an illegitimate daughter could indeed receive 5% of the inheritance. The girl was surprised at how generous the old man was. Now she understood better why some women wanted to become the mistresses of men like the old man. After all, it was possible to get incredibly rich through such a relationship. With her words, the girl had once again insulted Yu Xin's mother. Rong Wei also asked when it would be convenient for Yu Qian to listen to him about the situation at Goldman Group. After thinking a bit about the secretary's words, Yu Qian asked her sister to leave the room, but remember what she told her. The girl walked out of the office and waited. After a while, Rong Wei came out of the office. The girl immediately rushed to him. She asked Rong Wei to take her to her mother. However, Rong Wei said with sadness in his voice that he would like to help her, but he did not have the authority. Besides, no one was allowed to see the madam. Rong Wei walked closer to the girl and asked her to heed his advice. He asked that the girl give up her idea and just live peacefully as the second young mistress of the Yu family. Yu Xin asked him hopefully if he knew how her mom was doing. Rong Wei tensed up after her question. He firmly and clearly stated that he knew nothing about Yu Xin's mother's situation. Rong Wei then said that he already had to go and left Yu Xin. Yu Xin's legs gave out, so she fell to the floor. The girl was disappointed and devastated as her last hope to find out about her mother's fate slipped away from her hands. Soon Yan Wenhan and Yuan Yi arrived at the building owned by Tamal Technology Group. Yan Wenhan went to the front desk and said hello. He said that they would like to see the special assistant to the chairman Yu Xin. The girl asked the guys if they had an appointment. If an appointment was not made, they would not be able to do anything. Yuan Yi asked to clarify everything with Yu Xin first, and for that, the girl should inform Yu Xin that her friends came. The guy asked for the girl to report that Yan and Yuan had come to see her. The guy looked at the girl intently, but the girl reported that they couldn't receive them without an appointment. Yuan Yi stopped being patient and more insistently asked the girl to have the girl inform Yu Xin that they were already here. The girl, still with the same smile on her face, asked the guy to make an appointment if he wanted to meet Yu Xin. The words that he should make an appointment with Yu Xin first seemed to pierce his back. The guy started to show aggression even though he was incredibly calm before. He was angry because if they could make an appointment, they wouldn't be coming now without an appointment. In the end, Yuan Yi decided to deal with it the way he knew how and drew his sword. Yan Wenhan immediately ran up to Yuan Yi and asked the guy not to worry so much and put his hand on his hand. He also reminded the guy that they couldn't solve matters with such methods since they weren't in the valley. Yuan Yi looked at senior brother with an incredulous look. He remembered that senior brother had said that he didn't have any abilities, but he could now feel the considerable power that came from senior brother as he tried to restrain him. Suddenly, there was a system alert that Yuan Yi's favor had been increased by 0.1. Yan Wenhan immediately looked at the guy, but the guy averted his gaze. Yan managed to notice that the expression on the guy's face as he looked at him was somehow strange. At the same instant, a man walked up to the front desk. He said hello to the girl and asked if Mr. Mu was in his office. The girl immediately asked the man if he had an appointment. The man admitted that no arrangements were required, so he asked that Mr. Mu be told that Mr. Qin had come. The girl cheerfully asked the man to wait for 1 minute, as she needed to ask someone to escort the man to Mr. Mu's office. From such insolence on the girl's part, Yuan Yi's patience came to an end. He was incredibly angry at the fact that the man could pass without an appointment and they could not. The girl did not hide her intentions in the slightest, stating that if they were going to allow stray dogs into the company building, then they didn't need a front desk person at all. Yan Wenhan asked the guy not to get angry and to be reasonable. Barely holding back, Yuan Yi informed Yan Wenhan that the girl treated them rather disdainfully and rolled her eyes as she looked at them and listened to their request. He was extremely displeased and started shouting that no one dared to treat him like that. Yan Wenhan tried to calm the guy down, stating that they didn't know how Yu Xin was doing and that she was probably giving an interview. He even tried to convince the guy that maybe Yu Xin would answer their call next time. The girl wasn't happy that while she was working at the front desk, some guys were throwing a tantrum and yelling. On the one hand, the girl is understandable and it's her job, but on the other hand, she behaved unprofessionally, showing disregard for the visitors. Although sometimes it is incredibly difficult, but you have to remain professional until the end. If, however, visitors are too rowdy and ready to physically harm, security should be called. Just at this moment, Yu Xin walked down to the reception desk. The girl immediately noticed that she had arrived. The girl immediately bowed to Yu Xin and greeted her. Soon, Yu Xin, Yuan Yi and Yan Wenhan moved to an outdoor cafe not far from the company office. Yu Xin sat with a guilty and slumped look. Yan Wenhan wondered if what she had said at the press conference was true. He still had little faith that the girl actually wanted to stay here and work as a special assistant. Yuan Yi was also curious to know how the girl felt about it. He thought that Yu Xin was originally going to return to the valley with them. In addition, the guy was scared about what the master would say if the girl didn't return. He was frightened by the thought that after Yu Xin disappeared from the valley, there would be no one to mix different drinks and do other things for the master. Without Yu Xin, she would constantly lose her temper. The guy was honest, so he admitted in his heart that he wouldn't be able to take care of master properly. Yu Xin, with a guilty look, did not look them in the eye. She only informed them that she had a reason to stay in this place and not return to the valley for now. Yan Wenhan wanted to find out the reason why the girl was refusing to go to the valley with them. He thought that he might be able to help the girl solve the problem. Yu Xin continued to stare at the floor, not knowing how to tell them about her problem. At this moment, two girls were walking behind them. The girl with the ponytail noticed Yu Xin. She noticed that the second young mistress of Tamal Technology Group was sitting in front. However, the second girl corrected her, pointing out that Yu Xin was not the real second mistress, but only an illegitimate daughter, and that Yu Xin's mother was a mistress. The first girl wondered where she heard such gossip and if such a thing was written on the internet. The second girl pointed out that even if you don't believe in gossip, you can pay attention to the fact that Yu Xin has already been involved with two men at such a young age. Yu Xin, Yuan Yi and Yan Wenhan heard the conversation between the two girls perfectly. Yuan Yi could not contain himself and turned his head towards the girls with a murderous look. His patience was running out as he was tired of listening to all the pathetic people not taking him seriously today. At the same moment, he grabbed his sword. Yan Wenhan, noticing what Yuan Yi was about to do, told him to calm down a bit, as the guy had obviously forgotten about the rules. Yuan Yi sat back on the chair, thinking that those girls should definitely have their tongues pulled out for what they were saying. Yan Wenhan exhaled in relief as he was able to calm Yuan Yi down. He explained to Yuan Yi that in today's human society, the law rules. He also reminded him that the guy should not get into trouble or end up in the crosshairs of people from the association. However, at this moment, Yuan Yi jumped up from his chair and raised his right foot on the chair with a shout, wondering how senior brother could tolerate people saying such things. His shout greatly startled everyone. Yan Wenhan did not quibble, but directly stated that he could not tolerate such remarks and actions of people. However, he felt that it was simply useless to argue with fools. Despite his elder brother's words, Yuan Yi continued to shout. He stated that ever since the master had taken the girl to her valley, then he had seen Yu Xin grow since she was a child. Therefore, he was extremely dissatisfied with the nonsense people were saying about her. He was dissatisfied, believing that people were just talking nonsense and their lives were a wasted transfer of oxygen. Therefore, he wanted to immediately get rid of such disgusting people. Yan Wenhan asked the guy to cool down a bit and sit back down on the chair. After sitting down on the chair, the guy asked senior brother not to tell him what to do. However, at this moment, Yu Xin, feeling ashamed, confessed that people are right, and she is actually an illegitimate daughter. Yuan Yi was surprised when he heard the girl's words. Afterwards, Yu Xin revealed that the reason why she came here was not to meet her father. Meeting her father was only a reason to come here. She had felt out of place for quite some time now, fearing that something had happened to her mom. But her family wouldn't tell her where they were keeping her mom. The girl had tears in her eyes when she asked the guys to leave without her, as she wanted to find her mom. So she firmly decided that until she sees her mom, she won't go back. Yan Wenhan abruptly stood up from the table, informing the others that he had to call someone. Yuan Yi only looked at the back of Yan Wenhan, who was talking on the phone. After a while, Yan Wenhan returned to them. He reported that he had called the foreman. The guy told the master that he needed to stay and do something. He didn't even give any specific reasons, but the master let him stay anyway. The girl was a little surprised at how senior brother behaved. With a smile on his face, the guy explained that the master had asked him to take care of Yu Xin. Therefore, the guy decided that he could stay and help Yu Xin find her mom. Noticing the strange movements, he turned his attention to Yuan Yi. The guy was already in full cry, noting that senior brother was such a good person. The girl couldn't hold back her tears either. She had deliberately distanced herself from them so as not to burden them, but senior brother was so kind to her. At this moment, the system notification appeared again. The system notified him that familiarity points with Yuan Yi had increased by 10 points, and favor had increased by 0.5. With a second system notification, the system informed him that familiarity points with Yu Xin had increased by 5. One notification from the system informed him that senior brother was a true knight, always willing to help. The second notification said that senior brother was so trustworthy, so being under his protection was incredibly pleasant. Yan Wenhan was incredibly happy that he was able to boost his points so easily. All he needed to do was to keep going as long as he was able to do anything at all. And when he could get pumped up, get their abilities, then he could fight bosses on his own. He wondered if this manhwa required monster hunting. After clearing his throat, he stated pathetically that since he was their senior brother, he should take care of them. Therefore, no matter what problems they faced, he would do his best to help them, even if it was beyond his power. Yuan Yi and Yu Xin were even more surprised by the guy's words, and he even got all glowing for them after his words. After that, his familiarity points with Yuan Yi increased by 1 point, and his favor increased by 0.1. The guy thought that senior brother was so majestic, like a Buddha watching over everyone from the heavens. His familiarity points with Yu Xin increased by 2 points, and her favorability by 0.5. The girl thought that they were very similar to a real family. Yan Wenhan was so happy, as at this moment he could feel that he was gaining experience. Suddenly, the system's notification popped up again. The guy was a little stressed by the system's comment that the girl was open and active, and that she was eager for a family romance. At this moment, he saw that the favor system with Yu Xin had been activated, so he could now use 20% of Yu Xin's abilities. In the same instant, the guy's body began to be infused with the energy that was bubbling around him. As soon as he raised his head, he noticed that Yuan Yi and Yu Xin were looking at him suspiciously. The guy openly inquired about their faces at the moment. Yu Xin admitted that she didn't know why, but the longer she looked at him, the more she liked him. While the girl said those words, her face suddenly turned red. The guy laughed upon hearing this answer. He thought that his magnificent speech had touched the children who were standing in front of him. Suddenly, Yuan Yi came quite close to him and put his hand on his chest. With a red face, the guy informed that senior brother had a rather broad chest. Yan Wenhan was shocked by Yuan Yi's act, not understanding what had gotten into the guy. In the same instant, the system prompted him that he was passively using Yu Xin's special skill, charm. The system was interested in the guy's impressions, how the guy feels about such use of a passive skill. He clutched his head in horror, realizing that such a dangerous skill made no distinction between the sexes. Some time ago, in the building of Tamal Technology Group Company, Yu Xin was being tortured with the simplest of requests. They called her to make copies of documents, or to take the papers to the shredder and destroy them. The treacherous and pathetic people even asked her to call a courier for them. The girl tried her best to do the duties assigned to her. She was so tired of running and fulfilling requests that she was already out of breath and wanted to catch her breath a little. However, even at such a moment, the man approached her with a request to make him some tea, and for the girl to take this brewed tea to the boss for a meeting, and he noted that this needed to be done urgently. She needed to make more copies of 5 documents, meet the couriers, destroy 7 documents, and brew 8 cups of coffee. She was about to say something against the man's request, but the man immediately tried to make the girl feel guilty. He said that he knew very well that the special assistant worked personally for the chairman, so a small employee like him could not ask for anything. The naive girl fell for his trick. She said that she did not mean anything by it and would do what the man asked her to do. This is how the girl described her situation, although the story was not really long at all. Yan Wenhan must have completely forgotten how he was forced to work, and that he was not paid his salary, since he stated that the girl now needed to work hard and without complaining. He thought that no matter how hard the others made it for the girl, she should follow all their orders. The guy thought that it would be good if they decided that they had the girl under their control, because then they would let their guard down. Then their group would be able to act freely. Confidence appeared in the girl's eyes as she promised to be patient. Taking out the books about work, Yuan Yi said that he understood the girl perfectly, for he had read that in human society, going to work for the first time would definitely face difficulties. Yan Wenhan and Yuan Yi looked at the girl excitedly, promising that they would go through this journey with her. Therefore, the girl was willing to go through this difficult path, but now she was not alone, and she had those she could afford to lean on. In the present tense, Yu Xin remembered this whole situation. Yan Wenhan and Yuan Yi had worked very hard for the past 2 weeks to help her. In addition, they had rented a house nearby. Now they were helping Yu Xin keep an eye on Yu Qian's movements. The landlady was delighted with Yuan Yi. Looking at him with loving eyes, she even refused to charge them rent. The woman asked Yuan Yi to call her if he was free tonight, and then she would help him pass the long night. Yuan Yi was fine with that, assuring the woman that he would call her. Now they had a great position to observe. Yuan Yi assured Yu Xin that Yu Qian would not escape their gaze. However, the girl wondered if others were stressing her out on purpose. All day the workers had been bothering her about nothing, but she tried to hold on to her strength to withstand the pressure. Suddenly, an alert appeared in front of Yan Wenhan that he had received 0.1 favor from Yu Xin. He wondered what he had done at this moment. That favor was suddenly increased. Looking through the handheld telescope, Yuan Yi called out to his senior brother. He noticed that Yu Qian was once again traveling somewhere alone in a car. The guy suggested senior brother to follow Yu Qian. After thinking about the situation for a bit, Yan Wenhan confidently said that they should go and follow her. After a while of following Yu Qian, they arrived at some mansion. After hiding in the bushes, they began to inspect the mansion. Yuan Yi quickly noticed that a barrier had been placed around the garden, and that this was most likely a special area fenced off by the Immortal Cultivators Association. At this moment, Yu Qian drove a car up to the mansion. Then she opened the car door and came out all glowing. Looking at her, Yuan Yi wondered about her personality. He noticed that Yu Qian ran a large group of companies, yet she traveled to the countryside every 3 days. This was the point that seemed incredibly suspicious to him. Suddenly, the guards noticed something. Yan Wenhan noticed the strange reaction of the guards. After a bit of thought, he realized that since the area was fenced with an association barrier, the guards were probably not ordinary people. After that, they walked some distance away from the mansion and sat down on the grass. At this moment, Yuan Yi decided to check with senior brother about one small such detail. He thought that since this was a separate area fenced off by the association, it would be easiest to solve the problem if he just cut the barrier with his sword. Yan Wenhan did not stop the guy this time, agreeing that he could break the barrier with his sword. Yuan Yi's eyes shone. He was so happy because he didn't expect senior brother to let him do something like this. He even thanked senior brother. However, Yan Wenhan suddenly pointed out to him that there was a problem with this option. He reminded him that with this option, Yuan Yi might accidentally injure Yu Xin's mom. Yuan Yi had not thought about such a problem and the consequences at all. Therefore, Yan Wenhan promised that when the time came and the problem could be solved by force, he would definitely tell him about it. After a while, Yu Qian got into her car and drove out of the mansion grounds. Looking at the phone screen, the guy found that the girl had spent 3 hours in the house again. Even Yuan Yi now realized that this place was their main clue. Standing up from the grass, Yan Wenhan made the decision that they should return to this place on the weekend when Yu Xin didn't have to go to work. Stretching and stretching, Yuan Yi was happy for junior sister. After all, she has the weekend off and shouldn't be completely exhausted. However, at this moment, Yan Wenhan and Yuan Yi discovered that they were not alone in this place and someone was following them. The unknown man felt that they had discovered him. Taking out his sword from its sheath, Yuan Yi claimed that they were near a fenced area, which meant that he could use his abilities. However, at this moment, the unknown person ran away. Yuan Yi also easily noticed this, for he could no longer feel the breath of the unknown person who was watching them. Yan Wenhan pointed out that the unknown person could have been following both them and Yu Qian, and they didn't know exactly who the unknown person was following. Yuan Yi began to realize more and more that there was indeed something unusual about this place, but he didn't yet know what exactly it was that made him so alarmed. After waiting for the weekend, they set off again toward the suspicious area. The guards, meanwhile, were lined up near the gate leading into the mansion grounds. One of the guards reported that all was clear. The guards were such that not many people could slip past them unnoticed. Yan Wenhan, Yuan Yi and Yu Xin were watching at this time, sitting in the bushes some distance away from the mansion grounds. Yan Wenhan and Yu Xin were carefully watching the dangerous area. Yuan Yi was having fun trying to catch a butterfly. Yu Xin admitted that she was completely unaware that the Yu family had such an area on the outskirts of the city. Yan Wenhan informed her that they had been on surveillance for a long time, so they found a way to stealthily enter the courtyard. So he ordered the girl to be ready to spring into action at any moment. The bearded guard asked the other guards what their situation was right now. Meanwhile, Yan Wenhan, Yuan Yi and Yu Xin were following him. The bearded guard reported that his territory was clear, but at this moment Yan Wenhan, Yuan Yi and Yu Xin were climbing over the wall. When the bearded guard turned around to see what was behind him, there was no one there. Yan Wenhan, Yuan Yi and Yu Xin had successfully broken into the house. After that, they began to scrutinize the house. They checked the kitchen, the bedroom, and even the study. There were also guards in the house, which they carefully tried to evade and avoid being seen by them. They soon made their way outside on the grounds of the mansion and settled down in the shade of a tree. Yuan Yi began to complain that they had searched everything but never found anything unusual. Yu Xin even suggested that perhaps her sister was coming to this house for work, and they had gotten a little too excited. However, Yan Wenhan thought that it didn't make any sense, and something wasn't clean here. Since they didn't think to go outside the mansion grounds and only then strike up a conversation, so they were discovered rather quickly by the guards. The guards asked who they were and what they were doing here. Yuan Yi lied in the most inept manner, reporting that he was looking for the restroom. At this moment, Yu Xin spoke up and used her ability. The guards immediately began to look at her with loving eyes as a real beauty appeared in front of them. Looking at them, the girl informed them that they were dizzy and that they actually wanted to sleep for a while. The amorous guards fell to the ground to lie down to sleep, but before doing so, they pointed out to her where the restroom was. Yu Xin, even like a mistress, stepped on one of the guards, informing her brothers that the incident was settled. The guard she stepped on was still in admiration of how beautiful the girl was. However, at that moment, more guards arrived and noticed the guys. They were about to hit the girl. But Yuan Yi couldn't bear it anymore. Therefore, with a light movement of his sword hilt, he struck the guards who were attacking them. The guards were quickly lying defeated on the ground, having lost consciousness. Yan Wenhan once again grimaced and remarked that he didn't understand why he was even needed then, if they had managed without him. Yu Xin decided that they should start by dragging the unconscious guards somewhere. She wondered where the guards might be hidden in the area. Yan Wenhan suggested hiding the guards in the tree they were currently standing near. After a while, Yan Wenhan, after hiding the bodies of the guards in the tree, jumped down from the tree to the ground. Yuan Yi felt that senior brother didn't need to deal with such small things. He even asked senior brother to let him and his sister deal with such things. At that time, a joyful Yan Wenhan admitted that he also wanted to feel involved in the common cause. Suddenly, he saw an alert system that informed him that Yuan Yi's favor had been increased by 0.1. Yu Xin's favor had also been increased by 0.1. He continued to be surprised that favor was so easy to increase. Yan Wenhan took out a lot of strong ropes from somewhere and then tied all the guards, and then tied them to the branches of a tree. After that, they finally decided to leave the street and return to the house. While they were looking around to return to the house in peace, Yuan Yi noticed that this place didn't look unusual at all. However, Yan Wenhan thought that if everything looked so ordinary from the outside, it meant that there was some secret passage or room in this place. The first thing he wanted to do was to check the walls and stuff. After all, his intuition was telling him that there was definitely something in this place. At this moment, Yuan Yi told the others that he heard the sound of Yu Qian's car, which meant Yu Qian was approaching the house. After pulling up to the house, Yu Qian got out of the car with the most displeased look possible. She immediately yelled at the remaining guards that they were idiots and failed to notice the absence of a few guards. The guards were shocked as they didn't hear any suspicious noise and didn't see anyone. Yu Qian instantly sounded the alarm, telling all the guards to search the house, checking all the corners. She told them to find the intruders and capture them. The guards obediently went to do her bidding. A guard told another guard to check one side of the house and let the other guard check the other side of the house. Yan Wenhan, Yuan Yi, and Yu Xin at this time were eavesdropping on them from the second floor of the house. Yu Xin didn't understand what they should do in this situation since the guards were searching the whole house and the surrounding area. Yuan Yi once again asked senior brother if he could finally chop up the place with his sword. However, Yan Wenhan asked him to take his time as there was no need for him to do so yet. Yuan Yi immediately heard the footsteps of the guards approaching them. Yu Xin was still panicking, not knowing what they should do. Yan Wenhan tried to calm them down by telling them to stay behind him. He believed that if the calm method didn't work, they would always have time to use violence. Moments later, the guards arrived at the room where Yan Wenhan, Yuan Yi, and Yu Xin were hiding. The guards had an extremely displeased look on their faces. However, they found 3 statues in the room instead of the intruders. The guard was surprised, not realizing if there were always statues in this room. One of the statues seemed incredibly strange to him. It was Yan Wenhan, who was dousing himself in sweat throughout. Yuan Yi and Yu Xin froze like statues in one place, while not making a single sound. Yan Wenhan used 20% of the protagonist's aura and 10% of the charm to use the illusion technique. In the end, the guards checked the room and found no one. The guards assumed that the intruders had escaped through the southern wall. After that, a visibly tired Yan Wenhan deactivated the charm skill and deactivated the protagonist's aura. He was very tired, not understanding why this should count as a new technique. Yuan Yi was delighted, realizing why Yan Wenhan was considered senior brother. He even thought that the fellow master of tricks and illusions was the real pride of the indestructible valley. Yu Xin was also thrilled that she now had a reliable senior brother. The guy was surprised at how much they praised him. But would he be able to fool Yu Qian if she personally decided to check out the room? Would his cheap tricks work on her? Soon the guards came running to Yu Qian and reported to her that no intruders had been found in Section 1. In Section 2, they also didn't find any intruders. The same situation was in Section 3 and Section 4, so they thought that the intruders had already just escaped. Yu Qian didn't seem to have much confidence in her guards, so she decided to go in and check it out herself, so she could rub the guards' noses in their incompetence. After a while, they approached the room where Yan Wenhan, Yuan Yi, and Yu Xin were hiding. She asked the guards if they had checked this room. Glancing at the guards, she stated that she had perfectly seen them leave after a couple of seconds from that room. The girl was annoyed that it looked like the guards were trying to slack off. The bald guard standing behind her tried to convince her in a trembling voice that it wasn't like that at all. Yu Xian stared on the other side of the door at the room. Yan Wenhan, Yuan Yi, and Yu Xin felt her presence on the other side of the door. Yu Xin understood that they would not be able to escape this time. Yan Wenhan also understood very well that Yu Qian's instincts were too sharp. After all, she was not an ordinary person. Therefore, the guy highly doubted that his pathetic technique would be able to fool her. However, Yuan Yi was surprisingly calm and even happy, because the moment when he would be able to use his sword had finally arrived. Yu Qian decided to check out the given room herself. She pulled the handle and started to open the door. However, it was only when she opened the door slightly that she suddenly received a call on her phone. It was as if Yu Wanning felt that now was the right time for her to call. Looking at her phone, Yu Qian couldn't understand why she was suddenly being called by Yu Wanning. She covered the door back and answered the call. Yan Wenhan, Yuan Yi, and Yu Xin immediately exhaled in relief that they had not been exposed yet. After answering the call, Yu Qian wondered why Auntie suddenly decided to call her. Yu Wanning seemed to have arrived in the city as well, as she was sipping tea or coffee while sitting at an outdoor cafe. She reported that she had seen the news. Yu Wanning clearly pointed out to Yu Qian that Yu Xin is a disciple of the indestructible valley. Therefore, she didn't understand why it was her disciple who should suddenly work for Tmall Technology Group. Yu Qian's face was covered in cold sweat as she tried to come up with any excuse in a hurry. Suddenly, she announced that it was all because of the assassination attempts on their father. The girl, in a sad voice, began to complain that all this was happening because her father was seriously injured. Yu Qian clearly chose the wrong target because she couldn't be led away by such sob stories. After all, Yu Wanning is a real manipulator who lures people to the valley to work and then doesn't pay their salary. She asked if it was because Yu Tiangang was injured that Yu Qian sent her disciple to work in the company and do small errands. Yu Qian bit her lip in annoyance, realizing that Auntie knew everything. She even blamed her sister in her mind for complaining to her aunt. Yu Wanning asked Yu Qian with seriousness in her voice if she knew what Yu Xin meant to her. The guards all averted their eyes in embarrassment, unwilling to watch their mistress being told off like a little girl. After a slight hesitation, Yu Qian replied that Yu Xin is Auntie's personal disciple. Already with a clearly angry expression on her face, Yu Wanning menacingly asked the girl if she remembered what her personal disciple status was. Cold sweat increasingly covered Yu Qian's face, and she stammered her words, unable to say the words her aunt expected her to say. Then Yu Wanning had already told her to say what was expected of her. A frustrated Yu Qian still informed her that a personal disciple was as good as anyone and higher in status than anyone else. Yu Wanning told her that she was in the city right now, so she would like her student to keep her company. Yu Qian couldn't object to her decision, so she obediently agreed with her. Immediately afterward, Yu Wanning hung up the phone while Yu Qian was incredibly upset. Looking at her phone, she couldn't believe that Yu Wanning had come here just for Yu Qian's sake. She was jealous that Yu Wanning cared for Yu Xin so much. Yu Qian was full of anger and insulted her sister in every way possible. Meanwhile, Yu Wanning, who was sitting in an outdoor cafe, remarked with a smile that the guy was doing a pretty good job as a babysitter. He recently told Yu Wanning that he had a hunch that Yu Qian might interfere with their plans. So he asked her that if anything happened, he would send her a blank message, and then she should call Yu Qian to dispel Yu Qian's suspicions. Looking around, because she hadn't been to the city for a long time, she started to think about what fun things she could do in the city. After a brief moment spent thinking about the conversation with Yu Wanning, Yu Qian told the guards to continue searching. She even asked that the guards not escort her out. After a while, Yuan Yi noticed that Yu Qian had gone into the study. He was very curious about what she was going to do there. Yu Xin was thankful that the master called just in time, and they managed not to be discovered by the guards and Yu Qian. However, despite the fact that they were safe for now, she didn't know what they should do next. Yan Wenhan remembered that, judging from her voice, Yu Qian was very worried about the master's call. Therefore, he assumed that she now wanted to consult with someone about this moment. However, there was one oddity that kept the guy uneasy. He noted that the girl had not left the villa at once. Therefore, he assumed that their guesses were right, and there was someone important in this villa after all. An overjoyed Yuan Yi wondered how senior brother knew that the girl would receive a call from the master. Then Detective Conan explained to his junior brother that if junior sister didn't answer Yu Qian's call, Yu Qian would get suspicious. Besides, they made a lot of noise in that villa. He also reminded him that Yu Qian was the princess of the Cat Spirit clan, so her sensitivity was much higher than that of ordinary people. Therefore, Yan Wenhan admitted that he had asked the master to call Yu Qian on the phone at the right moment to distract her and remove their suspicions. Yuan Yi and Yu Xin couldn't stop admiring their senior brother, who was so cool and unattainable and was in the spotlight. Yu Xin once again confessed that senior brother was amazing. At this moment, a notification appeared in the system that the familiarity points with the guy had been increased by 1. The favor with Yuan Yi had been increased by 0.1. Familiarity points with Yu Xin had increased by 2. Favor by 0.5. Proud and with a long nose like Pinocchio, Yan Wenhan continued to hear from them how brave and brilliant he was, as well as how much they respected him. After listening to the thankful speeches from his brother and sister, Yan Wenhan reflected, noting that the master seemed to have somehow covered for them in front of Yu Qian, but seemed to have said something else to the girl. The guy reminded them that Yu Qian is the current head of the Tamol Technology Group, and also the princess of the Spirit Cat clan, but here was her reaction to the call from the master was quite nervous. However, Yuan Yi whispered to him that he did not yet know how incredible the master really was. The slightly surprised guy wished to hear a little more information about the master. Yu Xin then approached him as close as possible and asked him if he had heard the legend of the master. But the guy hadn't heard anything about it at all. Yuan Yi asked senior brother what they should do next and whether they would wait for the girl to leave the villa. However, at this moment, someone informed them that they would then have a long wait, because every time Yu Qian enters the office, she stays there for an hour or two. Yan Wenhan, Yuan Yi and Yu Xin were shocked that they were discovered and that there was someone beside them all this time. Yuan Yi became serious because despite his swordsman pride, he didn't even notice that there was someone else beside them. But he quickly caught on that the man's aura was familiar to him. Suddenly, as if taking off a red invisibility cloak, Rong Wei appeared in front of them. Yuan Yi exhaled in relief as he discovered that it wasn't his skills that were weak, but simply Rong Wei possessed an artifact. Yu Xin, on the contrary, was happy to see Rong Wei by their side. Yan Wenhan wondered if the girl knew this strange man who appeared beside them. Then the girl excitedly said that the man was Yu Qian's secretary and that he had always treated her well. But Yan Wenhan was worried that the man might expose them. The guy even thought that it looked like the man was spying on them. He thought the man's behavior was too suspicious. In addition, the man didn't seem like he was going to report to his superior that the infiltrators were hiding in this room. Rong Wei stated that they had made quite an unpleasant scene when they decided to break into the house. Therefore, he wished them to leave the house immediately. He imperiously stated that if Yu Qian found them in this house, the consequences would be unimaginable. Despite his imperious tone of voice, Yu Xin noticed that the study was now quiet and she couldn't feel her sister's aura at all. After hearing her words, Yuan Yi decided to verify this information. He soon confirmed that the girl had entered the study and did not come out, but nevertheless he did not feel the girl was still in the study at all. Yan Wenhan then thunderously announced that there was clearly something hidden in the study, and that when Yu Qian left the villa, they would definitely search the study. However, Rong Wei thought otherwise, declaring that this was an incredibly stupid idea. He once again demanded that they leave the villa immediately. However, the guy cheekily decided to inquire as to why Rong Wei was here hiding by himself. He figured that the man was here for the same reason as them. After a while, Yu Qian finally left the study and then walked out of the house and got into her car. After that, the villa gate opened and Yu Qian left the villa in her car. Yu Qian's appearance at this was as displeased as possible. Yuan Yi noted that Yu Qian's aura suddenly appeared in the study and then the girl left the house. Looking at his phone, the guy determined that after exactly 1 hour and 36 minutes, the girl left the study and left. Since Yu Qian had left the villa, the guy couldn't wait to head to her office. However, Rong Wei continued to discourage the guy and the others, saying that they should hear his advice. However, Yu Xin was willing to disobey Rong Wei's advice because she really wanted to find her mum, and was willing to go to any lengths to do so. She looked pleadingly at Rong Wei, asking him to turn a blind eye to this act if he wasn't going to tell Yu Qian about them. Finally exhaling and holding his hand to his head as if he was experiencing a headache, Rong Wei decided to go with them so he wouldn't let them go alone. What kind of skeletons does Yu Xian, a poor girl who has only experienced hardship and been mentally scarred since childhood, keep in her office? After a while, Rong Wei, Yu Xin, Yan Wenhan, and Yuan Yi arrived at Yu Qian's office. Yan Wenhan asked the man if he had penetrated the place before. After all, the man has the ability to become invisible. However, Rong Wei parried, noting that the guy must have heard this proverb. If you scare the snake, you spoil the whole plan. The guy, of course, didn't believe him. The man stood in the middle of the room with a sad look, while everyone else looked around every corner of the room. He confessed that he had only recently been able to get his hands on a cloak that could make a person invisible. Looking at the guy, he arrogantly stated that the invisibility cloak doesn't work on everyone, and then pointed at Yan Wenhan, saying that he seemed to be thinking of something bad. At this moment, Yuan Yi found something suspicious on the wall, which caught his attention. He called out to senior brother, informing him that he had found some kind of mechanism. The guy asked the girl to try to activate the hidden mechanism on the wall. Approaching the wall, the girl pressed a button as if she wanted to start her PC. The wall changed instantly, forming a portal the size of a door. There was a breeze coming from the portal, which gave a cinematic atmosphere. The guy rejoiced as his guess turned out to be correct, and the button reacted by sensing the affinity coming from Yu Xin. Rong Wei was still extremely dissatisfied with their actions. After thinking about the situation for a while, the entire group headed into the portal. Rong Wei was no exception and walked through the door with everyone else. Entering through the door, Yan Wenhan asked Yu Xin and Yuan Yi to behave as carefully as possible and conceal their auras. Looking at Rong Wei's back, he began to wonder what the man was doing. The guy knew that Rong Wei was the Yu family's chain dog who was loyal to the family to the core. However, right now he was sure that the rumors about Rong Wei were false. After walking for a bit, they stepped into the lobby and Yu Xin instantly stopped. The guy inquired about what had happened. The girl then pointed him to the first floor, where the guy discovered a man. The girl informed him that it was her father, but she didn't understand at all why her father was in this place. The man was watching television with an extremely displeased look. Looking at him, Yuan Yi was extremely surprised. Previously, he had received information that the girl's father was mortally wounded and had fallen into a coma. Therefore, he completely didn't understand why the girl's father was here in such a state. He even assumed for a second that the man had a twin brother. The man continued to sit on the couch with his phone in his hands, completely oblivious to the intruders. Yu Xin was shocked because she didn't expect to see her father here. She didn't understand what was going on at all. Looking for information, she turned to Rong Wei, trying to find answers to her questions from him. However, the man's face was covered in cold sweat, and he was even trembling. Yu Xin could not believe that Rong Wei was so surprised by what had happened. Rong Wei said that it was impossible to continue examining this place because the Cat Spirit clan was very sensitive, and such a large number of chaotic auras would not go unnoticed. Rong Wei still couldn't understand why this happened. Suddenly the man looked up and asked if Qian Qian had forgotten something. However, the entire group had already returned to the portal. Rong Wei commanded them to run away as soon as possible. Once they returned to the villa and then left the villa grounds, Yu Xin demanded answers from Rong Wei. She wondered which side the man was on. Rong Wei felt that the less Yu Xin knew, the safer it was for her. Yu Xin was not going to back down now. She menacingly inquired if the man knew where her mother was. She remembered that the man had shown up outside the house, which meant he was secretly investigating. Rong Wei admitted that he had a few clues, but those clues were not enough to determine Madame's exact whereabouts. And regarding what happened today, Rong Wei stated that he will act as if nothing happened. He also advised the girl to return to the valley as soon as possible. The man shared that things have gotten more complicated now. If the girl was involved in what was happening, she would surely get hurt. Yu Xin was confused, for she was extremely reluctant to stop searching for her mother right now when she was so close to locating her. Suddenly, Rong Wei asked everyone to be quiet as he needed to take a call. It was Madame Tang calling him. After answering the call, he said that he understood the whole situation and would be there soon. Yu Xin still couldn't find the right words. Rong Wei said that Madame Tang wanted to discuss the business plan with him, so he had to go. Rong Wei's face visibly softened when he said that he no longer hoped that he would be able to see Yu Xin again. In addition, he noted that the girl's eyes were just like Madame's. Glancing at Yan Wenhan, he stated that he had heard Yu Xin call him senior brother. After that, he announced that he was entrusting the girl into the guy's hands and asked that the guy take care of the girl. Yan stepped forward, blocking Yu Xin with himself. He promised the man that he would definitely take care of Yu Xin. Hearing his words, Rong Wei only smirked and then informed him that he had to go. After that, the man disappeared like a ninja before their eyes. Looking at Yu Xin, the guy smilingly promised that whatever decision the girl made, he would definitely support her. The girl was so happy to hear such words from her senior brother. At this moment, her face changed and she became formidable, saying that she was going to the hospital right away. After a while, Rong Wei arrived at the main house. Upon arriving at the house, he immediately passed where Madam and Miss were having dinner. Madam Tang inquired how long the man had been serving the Yu family. Rong Wei calmly said that he had been in the company for many years, and even longer he had been serving as Mrs. Assistant, so he couldn't give an exact time. Yu Qian tried to point out to her mother that this was a difficult question for Rong Wei, as good people don't memorize such dates unless they count days lived in misfortune. Rong Wei's face tensed slightly from their conversation. Madam Tang immediately announced that the person the man should kill this time was special. With a piercing glance at him, she inquired if she could trust him. Rong Wei calmly pointed out that he had never failed in his assignments. Yu Qian then took out the man's dossier from the envelope and revealed that his name was Murong Tianlang. There was a picture of Rong Wei on the dossier, so the man's face was covered in cold sweat. Meanwhile, at the Timul Technology Group Hospital, Yu Xin, Yan Wenhan, and Yuan Yi were trying to sneak past the nurses passing by to stealthily sneak into the room they needed. Yuan Yi crouched down and reported that the perimeter was clear. Yan even thought that the guy looked like a special forces officer. When they arrived at the right room, they looked through the glass at the man who was lying on the bed. Looking at him, the girl did not understand at all why this was happening. Yan Wenhan first tried to find out if the girl's father had a twin brother. However, the girl had never heard of her father having a twin brother. Yuan Yi noticed that the hospital was not in a closed area, so they could not carelessly use their powers. Suddenly, he felt that someone was approaching them. Therefore, he felt that they should retreat for now. Soon, at the temporary base of the opponents of the Timul Technology Group, Yu Xin, Yan Wenhan, and Yuan Yi gathered to discuss everything that happened to them yesterday. Yuan Yi pointed out that Yu Tiangang in the hospital actually looked seriously ill, just like the news report said. But then there was the question of who was in the secret hideout then. They heard the man calling the girl Qian, so he was definitely close to Yu Qian. After listening to this thesis, Yan Wenhan came to the conclusion that it could be Huang Xilang. Yuan Yi had absolutely no idea what senior brother was talking about, or who Huang Xilang was. The guy was surprised that Yuan Yi had never heard of him. Eventually, the guy clarified that Huang Xilang is a person who finds twins for distraction. These twins serve as bait and prevent the assassins from getting to the real target. After thinking about it for a bit, Yuan Yi felt that this was quite similar to the truth. Yan turned to his junior sister and asked if she could determine who her real father was out of the two men they had seen today. However, Yuan Yi intervened, informing senior brother that the girl had left home when she was very young. Therefore, he felt that she was unlikely to know Yu Tiangang as well as he did. But Yan smilingly admitted that he had already gotten to know him well during this time, a lover of playing games and taking walks. Despite Yuan Yi's words, the girl emotionally blurted out that she would recognize her father even if he turned to ashes. She angrily admitted that she wanted to personally finish him off after all. If she made a mistake in her actions, however, her father would get off too easily. Yu Xin also recognized that the man in the hospital not only looked like her father, but he had almost the same aura as her father. She sensed a bloodline aura in the man, and that this aura was very similar to the one she had sensed in the secret hideout. Therefore, the girl felt that there was more than just her father's doppelganger involved here. Yan Wenhan pondered over her words, trying to understand what had even happened. The girl noted that the man in the hospital was hooked up to tubes and an oxygen mask, so it was hard for her to say exactly what was going on here. Yu Xin ended up offering to take a closer look at the man in the hospital. Meanwhile, Madame Tang and Yu Qian continued their conversation with Rong Wei. The girl asked him to think hard about her proposal. Yu Qian thought that the agreement would benefit both families without any disadvantages. After that, Madame Tang told Tianlang to sit down and have tea with them. The woman believed that demons and humans could coexist peacefully, so she thought that the internal feud between demons was of no use to anyone. Looking at the agreement, Rong Wei, now known as Murong Tianlang, thought about the proposal. They could have struck first, but instead they were offering him peace, so the man didn't understand what he should do in such a situation. Madame Tang reminded him that the man had been with them for over 20 years, and that to her he was not a member of the Tianlang dog clan, and they were not members of the cat spirit clan, but members of the Tamil technology group. She didn't know Murong Tianlang's real goals, but he had done a lot of good for the company and had never done any harm. However, the man did not make a decision immediately, but admitted that he needed to think about this decision. What will Murong Tianlang do, and also how will Yu Xin, Yan Wenhan and Yuan Yi act? And how soon will they be caught? Murong Tianlang noted that a strong partnership is always a good thing. He wanted to point out the shortcomings, but Madame Tang interrupted him, advising him to drink tea. She wished to hear his thoughts on the matter. The man gulped down the tea that was poured for him. He explained that after restructuring, 8 Wolves Technology had built their own logistics network, so they not only met the delivery deadlines, but also deserved praise for the quality of service. In turn, Tamil Technology Group still relied on third-party logistics companies, which limited their control over the process. Therefore, he felt that to set up his own logistics, he needed people, resources, and the most important problem was time constraint. In the end, he concluded that in the short term, the cooperation between 8 Wolves Technology and Tamil Technology Group could stabilize Tamil Technology Group's logistics and compensate for their weaknesses. Although they would have to share profits with 8 Wolves Technology, it would improve their reputation. In his opinion, the pie was big and they wouldn't be able to swallow it alone, nor would they be able to protect it from encroachment. So he realized that a collaboration of companies was the best choice. After listening to his speech, Madame Tang admitted that she thought so too, and that they should work according to this plan. Murong accepted his madame's order. At this moment, Yu Qian approached him. She told him to increase the security around the villa. The girl told him that someone had broken into the villa, but they had failed to catch the intruders, so she was very concerned about the matter. Murong decided to show himself to be a fool about the matter, so he was curious about which villa they were even talking about. Yu Qian took out her phone and said that she would forward him the address of the villa. Murong continued to ask the supposedly interesting questions. He inquired if the villa was open to others as guests. Yu Qian pointed out that there were actually guards at the villa who were supposed to prevent anyone from entering the villa, but they were useless since the intruders were able to sneak into the villa. The girl informed with a smile that she only trusted him. She even asked that they could put the past in the past. The girl was also willing to trust him, as Murong Tianlang, after all, he had always worked for the future of the Tamil Technology Group, so she allowed him to enter the villa grounds. The man stood up and straightened his back, informing her that he would take care of the problem right away. However, Yu Qian was still bothered by one problem. She was still unable to contact Yu Xin. The girl was even beginning to think that her sister might be related to the intruders who had broken into the villa. She couldn't contact Yu Xin, and Yu Wanning called her at the most inopportune moment. After that, Murong reported that it was already time for him to go. Yu Qian was still immersed in thoughts about her sister and the events that had happened. When Murong walked out into the corridor, he met Uncle Xiang. After saying hello to him, he passed by and used a technique. A paperman appeared on Uncle Xiang's back. Then the silhouette of the paperman on Uncle Xiang's back began to blur. And after a moment, the little man on Uncle Xiang's back disappeared as if there was nothing there. Tianlang intended to follow the man's actions. After a while, he was already sitting in his car and driving around town. Putting an earphone in his ear, he began to listen to the conversation that was currently taking place in the house. At this moment, he heard Madame Tang telling Uncle that Rong Wei's identity had been revealed and that they had told him about it themselves. She wished to wait and see how Murong Tianlang would act. The woman felt that he had served the Tamil Technology Group faithfully for so many years, so perhaps they were worrying for nothing. However, it was foolish to expect this kind of communication to work clearly, so there was constant interference. Suddenly, Murong heard Uncle telling Madame Tang some rumors about the Tianlang clan, and then he heard about a fragment missing from the clan. The man's face became serious. He knew that the Lin Mao clan also had fragments. He was more surprised that whether they were talking about the very fragment he thought they were talking about. The words of the listening interlocutors became increasingly choppy due to interference, but he managed to hear about some nightmare that had happened last year. Then he heard them discussing that a group of people had infiltrated the villa and that it might have something to do with the fragments. So they wanted to make sure that the intruders into the villa didn't find anything. Sitting in the car, Murong didn't understand why their conversation was suddenly about fragments. However, he had clearly not chosen the best location to listen in on the conversation, as he caused a traffic jam to form on the road. The motorcyclists behind him didn't understand whether he was going to go or not, and why he was blocking the road with his car if he wasn't going anywhere. But Murong didn't listen to them. His thoughts wandered to the information that Yu Tiangang had suddenly summoned Yu Xin from the valley and found a reason to keep her in the city. Therefore, he thought that all of this might have something to do with the fragments. After carefully considering the information once more, he noted that Yu Xin was one of the rare dog and cat hybrids. In addition, the real Yu Tiangang, as it turned out, was not even injured, which meant that there was something hidden from his eyes in this matter. The grandfather on the scooter behind his car was already tired of waiting. He started yelling at the man to stop standing there and finally drive. Only now did Murong remember where he was now at all. As he drove the car back to his route, he continued to think about the situation. He kept hoping that it wasn't really that bad, and it wasn't what he thought it was. Meanwhile, Yu Xin, Yan Wenhan, and Yuan Yi arrived at the presidential suite of the Westin Hotel. Soon Yu Wanning entered the hotel room. Yan immediately rushed in with all sorts of sycophancy that he was glad that the master had actually honored them with her presence. He even stated that he had originally thought that this was all just another ploy. He was even glad that she had come after all. As soon as she sat down and extended her hand, Yu Xin and Yuan Yi gave her what she needed in her hand. Yu Wanning praised them for their quick response. Yan was shocked at their lightning-fast reaction. He thought that they could have at least warned him before sucking up to the master like that. Yu Wanning said that Hermes had recently released a new collection and invited her to a demonstration, and that it reminded her of their company and setting up the office. She felt that everything in their office had been outdated for a long time and needed to do an update. Yan was no different from his sibling and rushed over to massage the master's shoulders. He pointed out that there was no need for her to do such a thing personally and to have everything she needed delivered to her at once. His face reddened as he announced in his mind that tip number 1 on flattery at work: the boss is always a priority. Hint number 2 on flattery at work: give your boss a massage to let him know that you understand how hard the boss works. While enjoying his shoulder massage, Yu Wanning admitted that their designs have become abstract, so they need to choose the right partners carefully because they don't want trash in the office. She even complained that the guy doesn't know how to give a massage at all and that he needs to take some lessons from his other junior sister. The guy didn't get mad and politely remarked that he understood and would take her advice. Suddenly, he realized that Yu Wanning had just called Hermes' office fittings trash. Yu Wanning asked the girl to come over to her since they had a topic to discuss. The guy was still pondering her words. Yu Xin approached the master with a smile as she was happy to discuss her current situation with someone. Only now Yan Wenhan noticed that Yu Wanning had stayed in the presidential suite of a 5-star hotel for at least a week, which means the master was very rich and therefore she can't not pay his salary. What a naive guy. It's precisely because she doesn't pay such naive fools a salary that she's rich. Staring at Yuan Yi, he remembered the system had originally said that Yuan Yi was a simple guy with no experience in the city, but then the system had removed that line, so it was possible that the system was wrong about the master. He even began to dream that when payday comes, she will also write him a bonus. He's so naive and stupid that you even feel sorry for him. Yu Wanning said that she saw the situation briefly on the news, but she would like Yu Xin to tell her what has happened recently. She even told Yu Xin not to leave out the slightest detail. The girl faltered, trying to start talking about the current situation. Turning his head, the guy suddenly noticed that Yuan Yi had become somewhat silent. He even noticed that Yuan Yi was trembling with fear. Yuan Yi tried to say something, but his voice was so weak. He faltered, trying to utter a word. Yan was shocked and didn't understand why he was acting like this and where his usual courage had gone. The guy was incredibly shocked that Yuan Yi was so afraid of the master that he didn't dare to speak. Continuing to look at Yuan Yi, who even awkwardly folded his hands behind his back, the guy was shocked that someone could change so drastically. He thought the guy was an invincible protagonist with cool characteristics and abilities, but right now, Yuan Yi looked so pathetic as he stood in front of the master. The man who doesn't get paid his salary thought that Yuan Yi was afraid that he would get his salary cut. Yushin said in a pitiful voice that other than making coffee and printing out documents, she didn't do any work. After listening to her, Yu Wanning concluded that this kind of thing was common at work. She even advised the girl to learn from senior brother about this sort of thing. The guy shuddered at her words. She even stated that the guy was working like a curse, but then hesitated and thought it was unnecessary to talk about it. She pointed out that the most important thing was that the company had disrespected their valley by such an act. Grimacing, the guy kept praying in his mind that the master would pay him for his hard work. Taking the girl's hands, she declared that her poor apprentice had lost all her weight, that even her arms had become quite thin. However, now the master was by her side, and now the girl would not engage in such nonsense, as if she wasn't acting as a personal servant for Yu Wanning in the valley. Yu Xin, on the other hand, happily fell for her words, noting that the master was simply incredible. At this point, Yu Xin confessed that her father was not actually injured. Yu Wanning became a little more serious after her words, telling her to keep talking. Suddenly, Yan Wenhan noticed that it looked like Yu Wanning had secretly cast a spell on Yu Xin. What else did the guy see that surprised him so much and at the same time clarified the situation? At this moment, the system interface appeared in front of him. According to the system, Yu Wanning is a heartless demon who can do anything except pay her wages on time. In addition, Yu Wanning knows everything. The guy was surprised that the line about her knowing everything was added. He wondered what it was that she really knew. Now he understood better why Yuan Yi was even afraid to breathe in front of her. He was surprised to notice that Yu Xin was so confused right now. She was telling Yu Wanning about how the man in the hospital was actually a fake, and that her father was actually hiding in a secret room in the villa. Yu Wanning resented what nasty thing the old man was up to again. Suddenly, she turned around and looked at him for just a moment, then gestured for him to be silent. Yan Wenhan was shocked to realize the current situation. He quickly turned away, took his gaze away from Yu Wanning to the side, but the latter was still looking at his back. The guy was startled, realizing that Yu Wanning was well aware that he was watching her and had told him to keep quiet. He now understood better that the system's indication that Yu Wanning knew everything also applied to him, noticing her spell. He was becoming more and more aware of how dire the situation was, and that perhaps it was something he shouldn't have noticed. While thinking about the contents of the system panels, the guy noticed the familiarity score with Yu Wanning. He had been in the company for over a month, and his familiarity score with Yu Wanning had only increased to 0.1. Looking at it, he even thought that it meant he knew her too badly. After thinking about it, he came to the conclusion that the master was truly unfathomable. Suddenly, the guy thought about what would happen if he could get to know the master better and gain her favor. In his heart, he was already anticipating that he couldn't even imagine how powerful his cheats could become. He was even anticipating that he would be so strong that he could even destroy the world. Yu Wanning and the others did not pay any attention to him. Yu Wanning felt that there was no need to avoid the issue of the girl's real and fake father. She announced that she didn't like to complicate things, so she decided that she would ask everything directly from the side of the story. Yushin smiled and thanked the master. She then started talking about her mother. Yu Wanning admitted that as far as she knew the girl's father would surely raise a fuss. Therefore, she wanted to listen to him first. She then smiled, informing him that if the man was too rude, she would just beat him up. Yushin was happy and trusted the master's decision. At this moment, Yuan Yi intervened in their conversation. Yu Wanning inquired what he wanted to tell her. His face turned sad as he informed her that he could no longer remain silent. Yuan Yi loudly informed that he had something he wanted to say. He thought about it for a long time and decided that he had to speak up. Yuan Yi even claimed that if he didn't speak out about everything today, he would regret it very much. Yu Wanning told him to just tell her everything already. The guy was shaking before he was going to confess everything. He confessed that his hands were itchy. That's how much he wanted to practice with the sword. Yan Wenhan was amazed that the guy had held back for so long to say such a thing. With an imperious look at him, Yu Wanning told him to sit down. An overjoyed Yuan Yi took a seat on the sofa beside her, while Yan Wenhan didn't understand what was even going on. Looking at him intently, Yu Wanning asked him if he had been practicing. Yuan Yi made a pitiful face, stating that who would then be responsible if he regressed. He started complaining that the master only loves Yu Xin and only holds her hand, asking about her well-being and supporting her, while he only wants to reach out. Yan Wenhan thought that the guy was already overreacting. However, Yuan Yi kneeled down in front of Yu Wanning and wondered if she would help him. Yan Wenhan no longer understood anything at all about the current situation. As far as he could remember, the system had written that Yuan Yi was an incomparable swordsman. He thought that Yuan Yi should be a protagonist who could chop a mountain with a single blow while keeping his hands in his pockets. Therefore, there was no way he could understand why the guy was acting like a lunkhead right now. Yu Wanning glared menacingly at Yuan Yi, informing him that he should know by heart the #1 article of the Immortal Cultivation Association's project management. The use of supernatural powers is forbidden in mortal lands. She asked him if he thought he was so special that he could disregard the laws. Under her gaze, Yuan Yi seemed like a pathetic ant. The guy's face was covered in cold sweat as he tried to comprehend the words the master said. However, with a little sigh, she said that if her hunch was correct, the guy would soon have a chance to show off his skills, and that he could have some fun then. The guy's mood changed dramatically, and he was glowing with happiness. Now he was only interested in when and where he could get his sword. Yu Wanning asked him not to hurry because she was not an oracle and could not tell him the exact date. She even grudgingly stated that if the guy wanted it so badly, she could shorten her life to help him unlock the secrets of the heavens. But the guy immediately rejected her question. Yu Xin wondered what the master was suggesting and what would happen next. Yu Wanning smiled enigmatically, informing her that she would confirm her guesses soon. She then told them to stay in the hotel while she herself was about to leave the hotel. Once they accepted her order, then she instantly disappeared from their sight. Yan Wenhan was surprised how she had just announced that magic couldn't be used outside the valley, while she herself was using it right in front of their eyes. Meanwhile, at the villa, the guards were making sure that no outsiders had entered the villa, at least this time. Suddenly, it was as if gravity bent them to the ground, and all the guards fell to the ground. All the guards lost consciousness, and at the same instant, Yu Wanning appeared near the entrance of the villa. She waved her hand, and energy began to form around her finger. In the next instant, Yu Wanning, like Ulquiorra, shot out a kero from her finger. The top of the villa and the barrier were instantly hit by her energy attack. The building shook, and the debris of the building sprinkled onto Yu Tiangang. He was stunned, completely unaware of what happened and why the building shook. Before he realized it, someone had pulled him out of his hiding place by a supernatural force, and he found himself in the ruins of his villa. Yu Wanning slowly walked towards him, and the clatter of her heels echoed around him. Yu Tiangang felt a terrifying aura looming behind him, especially when someone with a frightening aura called his name. His face was covered in cold sweat, and then he found the strength to greet his aunt. She menacingly inquired if he was having fun hiding like a rat in his hideout. The bugs at this moment were complaining about their house being destroyed. However, this was not the end of their suffering, as Yu Wanning stepped on one of them with her shoe. The second bug barely managed to dodge her shoe. Yu Tiangang still did not move and stood with his back to her. He couldn't understand why she had suddenly appeared here so suddenly. Yu Wanning said that she had come to the city after hearing that he was dying. Her facial features became sharper and her voice became menacing as she announced that he would now have to think hard about what he wanted to tell her, so that the information about his death wouldn't turn out to be true. Yu Tiangang raised both his hands as if he was giving up. He stated that all of this was unfair. After all, he would never deceive her, as he wouldn't even have the courage to plot something like this. After another moment, his face was covered in more drops of drawn sweat, and he admitted that he had no other choice. Yu Wanning was not particularly satisfied with his answer, and she continued to stare at him intently. In the end, Yu Tiangang informed her that he would definitely tell her everything without any secrets. Yu Tiangang admitted that as the Tamil technology group had developed rapidly in recent years, many people no longer wanted to be satisfied with just their piece of pie, and that they actually wanted to be the one who cut the pies. He admitted that if he hadn't prepared his doppelganger in advance, he would actually be lying in the hospital right now. The man advised his aunt to look up information on the internet, because then she would be able to see the reports of the assassination attempt on him. Yu Wanning continued to stare at him intently, as if telling him to keep talking. So the man shared that, because of the assassination attempts, he decided to go into hiding and see who wanted him dead, and which of his subordinates had ambitions. Bowing his head down, he confessed that in addition, he really wanted to meet Yu Xin, because no matter what, she was his own daughter. Yu Tiangang hadn't seen her for over a decade, so he missed his daughter. During this time, Tamil Technology Group had grown to an incredible size, so he admitted that he wanted to take the opportunity to hand over some shares to her. Yu Wanning was still looking at him suspiciously. She was even slightly surprised that he suddenly decided to show himself as a loving father. Rubbing his hands together, the man declared that he was not worthy of her praise. Suddenly, he even cried, noting that he felt guilty for not fulfilling his duties as a father. Yu Wanning even rolled her eyes to the sky while listening to his amazing story. Yu Tiangang explained that he was wrong for not reporting everything in advance, but he was afraid that she wouldn't let his daughter leave the valley in that case. He even declared that the bond between father and daughter was unbreakable. With a wave of her hand, Yu Wanning swept aside the building debris from the sofa. She then sat down on the sofa that had been cleared of debris and once again stared intently at the man. Yu Tiangang was wary, realizing that Yu Wanning knew he was hiding here, which meant it had something to do with the recent intrusion of strangers into the villa grounds. He wondered from whom Yu Wanning had gotten the information about his hiding place and current condition. Yu Wanning suddenly asked him for information about Lu Yu. The man was astonished when she suddenly spoke to him about Lu Yu. He tried to dodge her questions, assuring her that he had no idea where Lu Yu was now. Yu Tiangang began to reveal that he had always known that Yu Xin thought that the Yu family was keeping her mother imprisoned. He even decided to admit that he had a sincere relationship with her mother and that he sincerely loved Lu Yu. However, after she disappeared, leaving behind a child, then he sent many people to look for her. But after many years, he had not received any news of her. Therefore, he tried to even inquire if Auntie had any information about her back then, since she had talked about her. What a dodgy worm this Yu Tiangang is. Yu Wanning was tired of him talking, noting that she was too lazy to comment on his relationship with Lu Yu. However, she wanted to clarify the matter of Yu Xin's existence. Yu Tiangang pointed out that although humans and demons can't practically have children, they are cat demons who have had more contact with humans since ancient times, so they are more likely to have children with humans than other tribes. So after Lu Yu got pregnant, then she accidentally found out about his demon cat essence. He once again began to speak with sadness in his voice, informing that Lu Yu had never been able to accept that he was a demon. Yu Tiangang probably didn't know that Yu Wanning, who was sitting on the sofa in front of him, knew perfectly well what kind of folding nonsense he was talking about. What would happen to the brazen liar? And that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you would like to see a sequel, please like, subscribe to the channel, and leave your wishes in the comments. You can also subscribe to Telegram to know about new videos. Bye everybody.